It is Hump Day right here on 710 KNUS. Nothing more exciting than announcing that we are on the day that when the show ends, we are closer to the weekend next than we are to the weekend last. That is just good news. I did not sleep well. So if you're looking on the, well, you can't look on the videos right now until I undo the little camera. Sorry, Lewis. Had it up and going here, but I am not, well, I got shorter hair, but that's about it. But did not sleep well. Listen, I am fond of doing the this day in history kind of thing. So let me just tell you, it's a little special today for me, a little personal. On this day in 1636, that's 387 years ago, the Massachusetts Bay Colony organized 3 militia regiments to defend the colony against the Pequot Indians. That is recognized as the founding of the United States National Guard. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear National Guard. You look good at 387. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, it's not a national holiday or anything like that. Maybe it should be. But that's a big one because since 2015, which used to be a couple days ago, now it's 8 years ago, I've been a member of that National Guard. I have been fortunate to serve in uniform through ROTC, through the Reserve, through active duty, through the Guard. I don't think there's anything left. It's always been with the best service. That's the Army service. And for those of you that are out there, and listen, I get it. There's all of this brother and sister rivalry stuff. For those of you out there that served in the Navy or the Air Force, the Marines, or only recently has the Coast Guard become part of the DOD. They used to be part of the DOT, if you can recall. I get it. You're like, well, that's ridiculous. Army's not more special than any other branch. And I mean this respectfully. Suck it, because that is not true. The Army has been around the longest. It's the best. You can't win a war without one. Just saying. And that's for you too, John Kellner, District Attorney and Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine Reserve. Everybody likes the Marines. They tell a good story. They've got some good history. But at the end of the day, Marines don't win wars. It's the Army. Just saying. So happy birthday, National Guard. Big, big distinction that you ought to be aware of here when it comes to the National Guard are two things. One, the feds, because of the Posse Comitatus Act, the feds, and that's the reservists and the active duty types. We're going to call them Title 10 military. They cannot enforce local law. They cannot enforce criminal law. That's just not their deal. So if there's ever, I'll give you an example. If there was ever a disaster out there and the city of Colorado Springs or the county of El Paso was like, man, we're being crushed here. We need help to control some of these intersections. They could not reach out to the commander of the Fort Carson installation down there and say, whoa, can you spare us some of your MPs or just soldiers to stand on corners because we have martial law or we need to control a traffic intersection? That would be a huge, you're going to jail violation of the federal law. However, the Guard, we can do it all, man. That's why the Guard gets called into duty all the time. The other thing is the Guard, who's our commander-in-chief? Yeah, the president, but the governor. It's the governor until we're called into federal service. Those are the two big things to know about the Guard. Happy birthday, Guard. 387 years young. Billy, anything exciting for you last night? Did you have the trivia last night?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. How many nights a week are you doing that thing?
Normally I average 3, sometimes as many as 4. So.
Mm-hmm. And what was the theme?
No theme.
Do a National Guard theme?
Nope, no theme. Just regular. But next week we're going to be doing holiday movies. First round is going to be comedy. Second round will be dramas. So that'll be kind of fun. But again, I don't know what has happened at this particular location. Blue Spruce.
What's
Brewing
the place?
Blue Spruce Brewing Company, the one in Centennial.
North
of
the one
Colorado.
That Kellner goes to.
Yep.
5 nights a week.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
The one that is north of basically what is it? Dry Creek and Colorado-ish. More or less, a little bit up the road there, actually south of there.
I think it's County Line. Is it Dry Creek or County Line?
Well, the thing is, it is right. It's between Dry Creek and County Line. Where I'm going, I turn on Dry Creek.
Okay,
and then to get up there, it'd be only because to avoid some of the traffics. Yeah, because there are a lot of people are driving. So that's the way that I navigate there. But yeah, it's between county line. It's off of Colorado, and I don't know what's happening. Lots of people, and it's been very full.
Really,
yeah.
buddy, I love that.
It's been really nice. Now, I don't think they're coming to see me. However, they do play. So if I get them, it's like the idea of a free sample. If I can make it enjoyable, then maybe they'll come back, especially given that they're there already. So it obviously is probably a neighborhood type of a location. And I did see some really nice regulars last night as well that show up. I've got these wonderful moms that drop their kids off at dance, and they try so hard, and they come so close every week, and they lose. And it is so depressing. They get, and the funny thing is I saw them so excited.
Kids,
yeah, I saw them. They were so excited one round last night where they were first for 2 questions in a row. And then things went bad.
No,
I think they finished 9th. But we had about 16 teams both rounds. So it was good.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was really good.
And how big are the teams? As big as they want them to be?
As much as you want to. And again, you have to almost balance out. Do you want to play with the table? Do you want to play against the table? And how much do you want to spread out the prize money? Because, if the prize money is $10 and you got 6 people playing, not so much.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it depends what you're getting. Yeah.
Are you telling me there's no moment for Trivia Man where folks sit at the bar and put bread in your jar and say, man, what are you doing here?
No. Every once in a while I have gotten some tips, but very few and infrequent. But it is nice for people to come up and just say, hey, I had a lot of fun. Thanks. And that's all I need. It's just the idea that did you play along and was it fun? Because I'm not trying to make it the focal point of what you're doing, but it should just be a sidebar to everything that is going
you
on.
Into more booze,
yeah, exactly.
Putting people at
risk. Exactly what it is.
Good.
Yeah.
It sounds like the topics could help address this now. 30+ year debate about Die Hard. Is it a drama or is it a comedy?
I know. I want to know. No, is it a Christmas movie or not? Is it a Christmas movie?
That's what I meant.
And I'm hoping we're going to put it in the Christmas movie because I think it is. It's during a Christmas
movie.
It's during a Christmas party. It has to be. If your definition is that the Christmas movie makes me feel good, then I disagree with you because it is my favorite Christmas Carol of all time, hands down. Nothing even competes in my life. But it is
which one? Run DMC?
No, no. And the thing
it was December 25th.
And this is why the Kelsey brothers are dead to me. Travis and his brother and
because
Ryan.
Of the remake.
Yes, they are dead. They do not exist. I do not care about them anymore. They are dead to me because Philadelphia did a Christmas. It's a wonderful Christmas album, 2nd year in a row. They do it for charity. But the Kelsey brothers and their moronic dumbness decided to remake Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues, and they did it poorly. They made it all, bro. Shut up. It is a tragic.
I'm looking at Travis on the screen.
Yeah, it is. The thing is, Fairy Tale of New York it's basically a tragic poem of a relationship between 2 people that deeply love each other, but know that when they're together, bad things happen. And as much as they want to be together on New York, as much as when they are together, it is happiness, they have to acknowledge the demons and the darkness that comes with that. And what do? It is wonderful.
It sounds like it's the story of me and beer.
Exactly. But it is, and I love it because it is so honestly raw. It's not, and that's what drew me to it, is because it has open emotions inside of it. I love the Christmas carols that make you feel good, but this one is real, and that's why it gets me. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. So I believe that some Christmas movies can be tragic. In some ways, one of my favorite Halloween and Christmas movies, Nightmare Before Christmas, also tragic. There's a huge tragic message inside there. So yeah, I don't think that it always has to end up with happiness. Like at the end of Santa Claus. I just think if
people are willing to concede that Home Alone is a Christmas movie,
yeah,
that Die Hard is really just a dramatic, kick-ass, grown-up Home Alone.
Oh, it is.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, Alan Rickman is Joe Pesci.
Yes. Yeah.
In those characters, he's just a much better bad guy.
You know what they did, Alan Rickman, in that movie? Again, because I'm a fountain of useless knowledge.
Hold on. What they did to him?
Yeah, the death scene. Yeah.
Okay, what'd they do to him?
Okay. Go back and you watch the death scene where Rickman eventually falls.
Just watched it.
Yeah.
Just watched it.
Okay. That is Alan Rickman's real reaction. He is not acting at that moment. He is genuinely surprised and scared because when they were holding on to him, they said, all right, I'm going to let you go at 3, 1, boom, and let him go. He didn't know.
That's genius.
So that reaction that you see,
there.
yes, that reaction that you see is him genuinely being surprised and scared. It is absolutely wonderful, and I think that's one of the best things.
But he had the presence of mind to still point the gun.
Oh yeah, but he knew
that
what
dude's a great actor.
He knew what he was supposed to do. He knew it was supposed to be 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm falling. Oh, point the gun. He knew his actions, but the reaction he has right when he falls is 110% genuine. It's just little things like that make me love that movie.
Followed by Dwayne T. Robinson saying, "Oh, I hope that wasn't one of the hostages."
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, Alan Rickman's passing just a couple years ago, whatever. I can't remember when it was. What?
Yeah,
I mean, that dude. Come on, Snape, and all the roles that he played. It was so good.
And as much as the remake of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was off, he nailed Marvin. He got it.
Yeah,
he was Marvin the paranoid android. He nailed that character. It was so perfect. He was one of the shining stars, I feel, in that awful remake of the movie.
He also plays kind of the Spock knockoff in that Tim Allen Space Galaxy.
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Oh my God, Galaxy Quest. He was fantastic.
I like how you can easily take all the really good movies and when they were done and all the and I got the crap ones. The crap movies. I'm like, oh, I know that. That's mine.
No. Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is.
Want to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Secret of the Ooze.
Which one now? The animated one, because the boys love it.
Secret of the Ooze. That's the follow up.
Oh no, not yet.
With Vanilla Ice.
But no, really?
Yes.
Vanilla Ice?
Yes.
It's funny because in the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that's just come out, was a blockbuster. Ice Cube was in it as the bad guy.
Yeah, he was in it. Yeah, but and it is as tragically stupid as you would think a mid 80s, early 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle live action ice baby thing would be. Yeah, it is that bad. Yep, that bad.
Speaking, since we're on the actors topic, I had reached out to Billy earlier this morning. I was thumbing through my news feed and I see that Andre Braugher passed away. If that name doesn't mean anything to you, I get it. You're not a very good person. No, I'm kidding. He's a great actor who I first saw in 1989's epic Glory with Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington and Cary Elwes, and Andre Braugher plays the super educated African-American guy who wants to join the boys in blue and go fight for freedom. And he ends up, no spoiler alert here. If you haven't seen the movie by now, sorry. He dies in the end, but I thought he played it brilliantly. And then the next time I saw him was in Homicide: Life on the Streets, and you just fell in love with the dude. He was Detective Frank something or other, and he was brilliant, super smart, super stoic. And Billy, I don't remember if you found any sound on this guy or not.
I found a wonderful clip, and again, I didn't find any really nice montages, but I found a clip that I think is fantastic from him as the chief in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Great.
And I just think that when you talk to me about him and what he did, because I'm not as familiar with this work as you are, that I was like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Everything you were telling me about him, this I felt, given how you described him, gave me really good insight. So we'll start here with him. And it's very, very brief. Here it is. Okay, hang on. There we go.
Look at this place. Half-eaten food, crumpled tissues, pictures of your families.
What's wrong with pictures?
If you love someone, you'll remember what they look like.
That to me was just like, that is perfect. Like for everything you talked about, how the presence on screen, how you fall in love with him. It was that line. I'm like, all right, I like you. Like that's it. Yeah.
He was Chief Holt in all of the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And that's one that I could have gone without seeing, but Jeff fell in love with the show and like binged the first however many seasons. And like everything else with the kids, at a certain age when they're teenagers, I'm playing catch up. I'm not introducing them to anything anymore. They're introducing me to stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whoa. And just like the animated thing on Amazon Prime, Invincible.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm going the way through that. I'm halfway through season 2. Wow.
Holy smokes, buddy!
Wow.
It ends halfway through season 2. You're going to end up
Ooh.
having to wait like we are. But
No, that's not fair.
remember when I told you the first episode when Jeff was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, are you done with episode 1?" And I said, "Oh, I got about 5 minutes left."
Yeah.
He's like, "Then you haven't seen episode 1." And I'm like,
then you
"What?"
haven't. Yeah.
And then when you watch it, you go, "Holy smokes!"
Oh yeah, it was great. But did you get the foreshadowing there? And it's funny because my son pointed out to me that there is an interaction early in about midway through episode 1, where dad and son are talking while they're in the sky and they're talking about abilities and things. And there's something that happens in that interaction. And I turned to my son and looked at him. I go, "Oh, that's not good."
Oh, really? Like,
Yeah.
is it the part where he says, "Sometimes, son, you have to do things that you don't like to do"?
That's part of it. But yeah, but it's a little bit earlier than that. Where things get physical. And I went, "Oh, that's not good." And I said,
Oh,
I
yeah.
go, "We're seeing," and he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "We're seeing a slice of character development." I go,
Well, that's true then, man. Then you picked up on that because I didn't see it. So when that thing happens at the end of the first episode, I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I mean,
I was like, for me, there's like, oh, I'm like, okay, now, we're connecting some dots here. This is cool.
There's some graphic stuff. This isn't the show you sit down with and watch with your preteens.
No, but but I appreciate it's not gratuitous violence, but I appreciate that it's there for a reason, because that final scene should be as violent as it is.
Oh my gosh.
Because it needs to leave that mark. It needs to set up season 2.
It sure does.
Yeah. If it was not as violent, if it was the thing where we'd pan away and we'd see shadows and stuff, wouldn't leave the same mark. It had to hit that way. Yeah, it was really well done. I really.
And then if you've gotten through episode 4 of season 2, man, then you're at a place where I am, where you're like, "Well, when's the next one coming out?" And Jeff, of course, who knows everything, is like, "No, not till next year." I'm like, "What? You can't just leave me hanging."
That's not fair. There's actually this is a weird one, but there is a TV show that I was a huge fan of, and because of some production issues, some other stuff, they took a year and a half off, and it was incredibly hard for me to get back into it. No. It was Orphan Black. I know exactly. No one knows.
I started to watch that one.
Yeah, phenomenal movie, and again came out of Britain. Phenomenal movie, and the idea.
Well, the actress has to. I mean,
Tatiana
Maslany.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that it's a story about a woman who, and again, the setup is beautiful. The setup is this woman who's somewhat down on her luck, and it's a little bit rough, and she's got some relationship problems. And she sees a very nicely dressed woman at the subway station. And this woman very quietly takes her handbag, takes her jacket off and folds it very neatly and puts it next to one of the pillars. Takes her handbag, sets it down very neatly at one of the pillars, turns, and as the train is coming, jumps and dies. And you're like, "Wait, what?" And then the Tatiana's character walks over there, opens up, and she's been doing some crime stuff. So she's not, "I'm all right, I'm checking pockets." So she starts going through the pocketbook and she pulls out the ID. The face on the ID is her, not her name. And then things run from there. And it is phenomenal. But so good. But they took a year and a half off, and it was really difficult for me to get back into it. I had to force myself.
Is it over now?
Yeah, it is. They're starting a reboot as well. But it was yeoman's work for me to get right back into it. It was so hard. It was so long. And there were so many pieces of little things they tried to bring back in the storyline that I just flat out didn't remember. It was, they demanded a lot of me as a viewer for someone who had a year and a half off. It was difficult. And that I was disappointed because finishing that off, I felt like I really wanted to, but it became a little more like work. And when that happens, I disconnect from the shows. But I had to
here's some of the texts that have come in. See you guys. This is why the 6 o'clock is so vital to my well-being. And then they have a quote: "Die Hard is an adult kick-ass version of Home Alone. This is the truth I need in my life."
Yes. We need that on a t-shirt. We should have on the back. It's on the front. It should say Nakatomi Plaza Christmas Party and have the dates and stuff. And on the back, it should say Die Hard is the kick-ass Christmas version of Home Alone movie. That's all it is.
And then someone texted in and said, "Good morning, fellas. Didn't Ryan O'Neal just die recently?" That is true too.
True.
Ryan O'Neal passed away earlier, I think this week maybe or something.
I think so.
That was another one where dude was in a ton of different movies. He had huge 1970s traction. I mean, this guy from, I can't even remember all the movies, but he did a couple with Barbara Streisand. Maybe it was The Main Event and something else. I didn't realize this dude was a legit Golden Gloves like boxer.
Wow.
Did not know that.
There's some Ryan O'Neal movie that my wife seems to watch every like 4 months or so. I can't remember what it is.
What's it about?
I don't remember. I don't watch it with her. I don't.
You know,
I don't
he was.
But
he
she's
was
got
in a
some of those
movie.
that she goes back and she watches over and over. And there's one of them, but I don't remember what it is because I can't. I don't know what it is.
It was a
Let me
there
look.
was a 1989 movie that I fell in love with a very young Robert Downey Jr. and a young actress who I also fell in love with named Mary Stuart Masterson, blonde lady from Some Kind of Wonderful. If you ever saw that movie, she was, in my opinion, just lovely. Anyway, he's in there and he plays opposite Sybil Shepherd in this. And Sybil Shepherd was big at the time, and resurgent, if you will, after the Paris, Texas stuff, because she had Moonlighting, which we'd previously talked about. And
It's a love story. I'm an idiot. That's what it is. It's the Ryan O'Neal movie.
Oh my God, Love Story with
Yeah.
Ally McGraw. That
Yeah.
was one of the huge movies that
I
I mean that
know.
put him on the map.
I know. That's one that she goes back in, but I don't watch that with. I don't
You
know
talk
what her
about
name is.
tragic love story. Oh
Yeah,
my
I know.
God.
I know. She goes back. I don't watch that one with her.
That one is man,
Yeah.
good for your wife
Yeah.
because that's a tearjerker
Yeah,
there.
yeah, she likes those. So I'm like,
That's
yeah, okay.
almost, and I in no way am I saying
No.
Ally McGraw's like Lassie, but it's a little bit or like
Yeah, it
Old
is.
Yeller. It's not, she's not Old Yeller, but it's like
Oh,
Old
yeah.
Yeller.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not a side note. My wife, there are certain things that she does. She likes to do stuff and watch things. She has this thing about watching some of those, crime investigation shows and then
Mhm.
listening to the podcasts and stuff. And I'm worried. I'm worried that she's doing research. I'm just saying. It's an unhealthy obsession. And I'm just saying that if for some reason someone comes in and says that I left a note and went somewhere, don't believe it.
the thing is that you would think that all of those things would lead to a better kind of
Yeah.
murderer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's
Oh,
all
yeah.
these things, and yet we still have the Aurora dentist.
Yeah.
We have Stefan's dentist.
yeah.
Your dentist,
Yep.
the killer.
Yeah.
We have Murdaugh, Alex
Yeah.
Murdaugh out there. I mean,
Oh no.
people still
I'm certain that if my wife decided to, she would get away with it. She is that clever. And
it
I'm
is
also
true.
not-
We only
yeah.
catch the dumb ones,
exactly.
or
And
unlucky.
I'm also saying that you'll notice in this conversation, I am not saying I wouldn't deserve it. I don't know what it would to bring my end, but I'm certain that at that point, yeah, probably if I had to go back and go, did I deserve to be murdered at that point? Yeah, probably.
That
Whatever
is
choice it is.
really,
Yeah.
that's really a defense only in conversation. In the
Yeah, it
public
really
eye,
is.
right? Like it's not a defense in crime. Although I guess
No.
you could, if you could get in all the things that are you might be pitching a jury for nullification or
Oh,
something. But
absolutely. I mean,
you
all
can't-
she would have to do is walk in and they would hand her the murder weapon, whatever it would be, and she
Yeah.
would pull out her phone and show pictures of the house. She goes, "Have you seen all the snakes? Right over there
right,
in the wall, the entire wall filled with snakes. Have you? That's okay. Now anybody," and they would go, "Yes, you're right. Case dismissed."
even without the pictures though, just simply
Yeah.
saying he kept demanding I touch his snake. People
Yes,
would be
exactly.
like, that monster.
That monster.
That monster.
And he would
Doesn't
make
he
it
know that you're
move.
not chattel?
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of horrible defenses, did you read? Maybe I don't want to screw up the
Yeah,
Thorpe
no, no,
report.
yeah.
Did you read about the Coles burglars or the
Yes,
Coles?
yes. That is the
thieves?
Thorpe report, but let's talk about it. 'cause
Oh,
we can always...
no,
no,
I don't want
we
to.
can-
I don't
let's
want
do
to.
that. That is fantastic. Let's do that. Here, hang on a sec. We're gonna get where is it? I know it's
little
in here.
Premature Thorpe report.
Yeah, but where is? I know it's in here somewhere. You'd think I'd have this better organized. Yeah. 2 men convicted of felony theft for stealing more than $2,000 worth of merchandise from a Parker Kohl's argued in court for a lesser charge. Why? Because the stuff they stole was on sale. They say the value isn't there. What? We only stole the sale stuff, and so no.
I love it. I
just-
think it's.
I know.
I just love the ingenuity. If they put that much thought, that was a public defender
yeah,
argument there.
Oh, absolutely.
If they just put that much thought into some getting their GED or college or something,
Oh, I know.
you would think they could be on a different path.
I mean, I keep
That
thinking.
Coles, by the way,
Yeah.
is hit a bunch.
Really?
And in no ways is this a knock on the Coles, but even when I was the DA
Yeah.
way back in the day,
Yeah.
I used to go to county court. I've told this story before. And if I had a Wednesday that was relatively light, I'd say, hey, clear my calendar. I'm going to go do a trial with one of the youngins.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys I ended up doing a trial with, I'm pretty sure this was him, was a guy named Chris Wilcox, who right now runs the entire Douglas Elbert Lincoln operation. He's a
Wow,
senior chief
nice.
deputy, one of the best trial attorneys I have. And like a guy that could be someday the district attorney. Like
Yeah.
this guy's that good. Well, he was a young county court prosecutor then, and we did this trial. And it was a pair of women. Like apparently these thieves like to work in packs, you know. So there's a pair of these women thieves. They go in there and they get their little, those I don't know how to describe the bags they have that look like you would take them diving to put shells in them or something. You know what I'm talking about? They have the holes in them.
Yeah.
And she'd gotten all those things. They had the car ready to go. One of them takes off, runs out with an armful of jeans. I don't know why jeans, but jeans and stuff.
Secondhand
the other
market,
one, what's that?
Secondhand market for jeans is pretty hot.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So the other one, the security guy, back when I don't even know if Kohl's or anybody invests in security anymore. Dude is an undercover security guy.
Yeah.
He sees her on the floor. He goes up and starts monitoring the camera. So we have great camera work. He's following her. This guy just had like a sixth sense for thieves. I imagine a lot of them developed that. Like, I'm sure. Look suspicious.
Oh, yeah.
Follows her around. One thing leads to another, and she bolts. You can see the camera kind of move real frantically as he's trying to, and then he gives foot. You see him chase after her. They hop in a car, and they had taken a glove and tried to stick it behind the license plate so that it flipped over and covered the license plate. Yeah. But as they drove away, it just flipped open. So as they were driving
Oddly,
away.
that's what wind does. I mean, again, if we had spent more time in school,
just so
back
funny.
to the GED points. Yeah.
So the dude ends up getting the plate, and because it's Douglas County, they still care about things like crime.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like they're
nice.
not like, what's the value? We're shrugging it off. I mean, this is misdemeanor value stuff. Doesn't matter. We're going to go get you. And I love that.
Have we asked the thieves how they feel? That's a
but
big thing. Yeah.
They go to trial because she's not going to take a conviction for the thievery and all this other stuff.
Why would she?
And the jury, of course, convicts. We're going to sentencing. She's got a couple other things in her background, so she's got to go to jail. Right? It's just got to happen.
Yeah.
And she stands up at sentencing, and part of the argument is she has like 4 kids that are below a certain age that nobody else can care for.
Yeah.
And if she goes to jail, she won't be at home to care for them. And I just remember being so offended by that argument. Like, well, where were they when you were thieving? 1, and 2, at the time you were thieving. And by the way, in no way is there a suggestion that they were living on the streets or she was stealing clothes that happened to fit her.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, wait a minute. Where are your kids while you're thieving? 1, and 2, as you're thieving, were you thinking, there's laws about this. I might go to jail and leave them without a parent. And I just remember coming away feeling like those arguments really bother me so very much. I didn't make the sentencing argument. Chris did. And I think she got some jail or something like that.
Yeah, that bothers me as well, because the one thing that I've got is, if the argument is, well, I have kids at home and then I can't be put in jail, does that mean when you have children, parents are exempt from thievery laws? That because we have kids and you can't put us in jail, we now are allowed to take anything. That's the logical conclusion of that. The other part is, the question is, when you were deciding the ways in which you needed to provide for your youngins, the top of the list on the thing that you said possibilities, when we're brainstorming and we've got the big whiteboard out, the thing that rose to the top is crime. That was the number one. that walk me through this decision-making process when you're sitting there going, gosh, I think the best way I can provide for my children at this point is to do something illegal. Maybe we need to talk about the decision-making process you're having here at this point. I don't know. Maybe it could be me. It might be me.
Any law enforcement agency, whether it's police, sheriffs, but ultimately the prosecutors, city or DA.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the approach that has to be taken in the future, if we're going to get back to the basics of understanding that there are laws, there are right things and there are wrong things, is every single theft will be prosecuted, and you're going to spend some period of time incarcerated. It doesn't mean it has to be career ending for me. It doesn't mean it has to be everybody that steals a Snickers goes away for a year. I'm not saying that. I'm saying everybody that steals has to taste the inside of a jail cell for us to remind people. And some people have said, well, what if they're stealing a loaf of bread for their family? And I'm like, in 29 years now, I've never seen anything that approaches that mythological story of stealing to just feed the kids. Doesn't mean it isn't there. Yeah. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, you haven't seen anybody gone Jean Valjean. That's basically what it is.
That's why he was
thrown in prison. Was stealing bread for his
when you see these people, these videos that have gone viral of people, crushing a Best Buy or
Oh,
some
yeah.
cosmetics counter or something
Yeah.
like that. Please stop with the whole, it's society this and
Yeah.
they need it for that. Please don't do that. Everybody's got to go to jail on this. But as we're sitting here talking, man, there are people texting in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read to you what what they're going to try to say, but it's voice to text.
Oh, good. Oh, now first, before we get to that though, and then while you're looking at those, I do want to say that I think I've missed, you and I might have missed a little bit of an opportunity because according to that woman, when she was talking about the fact that, she was allowed to do the shoplifting and the theft because of having the kids at home, that I'm a little disappointed because you've had 4 kids. I've got 4 kids
that I know
when they were little. I could have stolen some much better looking clothes. I mean, this is nice, but I could have been really dressed nicely if I knew that this was an opportunity. I mean, Dad would have been here really, really pimping out. But I mean, again, I love the Orvis.
Billy,
my Orvis stuff. I love Orvis. Orvis is like one of my go-tos.
They also scream functional and quality and comfort, which
that's exactly it. But I mean, if Daddy could have been Louis Vuitton, Daddy would have gone Louis Vuitton. I didn't know it was an opportunity. I feel like I've missed something.
I maybe it's my old age now, but I am now convinced that one of the basics for getting society back on track in moving away from this moral relativism that seems to have seeped into everything is to refocus on this idea of property rights. And listen, I'm not looking to ruin lives. I'm looking to get attention and I'm looking to change behavior, is to just simply say, because this is a basic thing. Yeah. Right. Like nobody steals out of emotion. Like, I'm so mad I could go take a KitchenAid appliance. That's what these guys stole from Kohl's. I just think getting back to the basics and saying we have certain property rights here in the country and we have laws about them and this is what we're going to do with them. And whether it's a car or a KitchenAid device or something, if you just put out a public notice that said, hey, from this day forward, if you steal, you will go to jail. I don't know for how long. Maybe it's half a day. I don't know. Maybe it's a couple hours if it's a Snickers bar. You will be booked. You will go to jail. It's going to happen. I think all of a sudden you start to change minds. And the minds I'm looking to change aren't just within the jurisdiction. I'd be looking to change minds of people outside the jurisdiction who are thinking, if I'm going to steal, maybe I stay in Denver.
Yeah, maybe I don't go here. And the other part is looking at what the punishment is and how. One of the things that everybody kind of made fun of, and we did too a little bit, but I think is fairly genius, is the woman recently who yelled and screamed at the fast food, the Starbucks employee. I think it was the fast food employee.
That was a great story.
And then she was sentenced to work 20 hours a week for like a month at the facility, at the place where she, acted a fool.
I do like that. That's
and it's in exchange for her not being behind bars. She can either stay behind bars or in exchange do this. I think that would be wonderful, especially like the example of the guy who, yes, it's tragic, stealing the food to feed his family. That is tragic, but maybe a little bit of time in prison, but however, maybe the alternative thing is he's sentenced to work at the local food kitchen for 3 months or so. Maybe that's the idea.
I would take that.
Yeah, I
as
would
an
too.
alternative.
Yes,
I
would
give him
too.
a choice.
But I think he does have to spend at least a little bit of time inside the Crossbar Hotel. Because
to let them know this is what happens with thieves.
This is where it goes.
This is what we do to thieves.
Yeah.
The other thing we've gotten away from is the idea of shame. And what I mean by that is there are stories around the country, less so here in my memory, where if you stole from, I'm making this up, but let's say you stole from the Kohl's, a potential sentence to avoid jail would be you're going to stand in front of the store wearing a sandwich board that says, this is what happens when you steal from Kohl's. And you would pay for the deputy's time who has to sit there for a couple hours and make sure that you do it. It turns out some stores don't like that imagery, but I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I would love to go to a store where somebody that stole from them was out front wearing a sandwich board. I would love that.
The thing for me is that I understand that the store is like, oh no, it says that people are stealing from us. And I'm like, no, hang on. When you have that position, you remind me of the MIT, UPenn and Harvard, heads up there sitting there and saying, but what is the sexuality of the question? How do I know if the question's transgendered? I mean, stuff like that. And what I look at is no, that store is showing you they don't tolerate the crime. That when I walk through those doors, the one thing I should be assured of, nobody in the store is going to be trying to take stuff. And that to me is a reinforcement. That tells me this is a business I can trust because I know people aren't going to be barging through the doors and going to be running around taking stuff, and I need to stay out of the way. God forbid they have a gun and try to shoot people. So that the fact that you are taking it seriously, that to me is a reinforcement of you being a good business. If you had somebody out in front of your business with that sandwich board, I am going to frequent your business more often. I am going to say you're a business that is doing it right. I'm going to show up here more often.
That's what
that's
I
for
would
me.
feel safer.
Yeah.
There,
Oh,
frankly.
absolutely safer.
You get when you log into the text, man, two things you're going to see. One is somebody texts in, "You boys need one of these. It is the most brilliant, ugly sweater and relevant to our conversation that I need to get." And then someone else went voice to text on Ryan O'Neal and Allie McGraw, but it types out as "write a known eel." And
I love that.
And Alamic Graw.
Oh, that's fantastic.
What the hell?
Oh, that is wonderful. Man? Oh, God, that's fantastic.
We'll cut away for a break here, but finally, Alexa, I remember going to the drive-in in the 1970s to watch Paper Moon. Again, that was Tatum O'Neal and her dad. They were estranged for a while, but later came back. And then she corrects me, and thank you, Alexa, mesh bags.
There we go. The mesh bags. Yes. It's like they look like that cheesecloth. I don't know what it is. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, we've got super long again, unintentionally. Let me cut away for a break. And when we come back, we'll get to the Thorpe Report and you choose the news. Billy's going to spend some off time here working on time. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's that time of the show, and thanks to the magic that is Billy and his ability to move things around here, there, and everywhere, we can get right to it right now. It's called the Thorpe Report with William.
Hey, thank you, sir. And big hello to Chris Work, friend of the show. She brought up Alan Rickman, great Christmas movie, Love Actually. That's fantastic.
Oh, you
Forgot
know
about that
what?
one. That is beautiful.
That is a
so
Hugh
good.
Grant thing too, right?
Yeah,
That's
that is him. Yeah.
And what's her name? Keira Knightley.
Yep.
Great
Keira Knightley's in there.
movie.
Yeah,
really
that's a
good
wonderful movie. So yeah, good morning, Chris. Hey, drivers in Colorado and the foothills along the Palmer Divide, slick roads and poor visibility this morning. Be careful if you're out on the roads before the sun rises. Some areas, slight bit of ice. Not horrible, but it might surprise you, especially coming up on cars in front of you in traffic. Be careful. We're going to get some freezing drizzle in areas of dense fog. Are going to stick around throughout today. And a winter weather advisory has been issued for our foothills. Snow is expected for part of our state throughout today and possibly through tomorrow. They're expecting 1 to 5 inches of snow from the system, mostly in the high country.
The Stefan.
Yes, exactly. A man has been arrested after 7 months after a deadly. That is so good. After a deadly shooting at a Tesla charging station in Edgewater, the 33-year-old was shot and killed at a supercharger station in Edgewater on May 3rd. Edgewater Police Department has arrested Jeremy Allen Smith, 39, arriving at the station within seconds of the victim, Adam Fresquez, 33. They have video of the altercation and the shooting. Broomfield police are investigating a crash that left 2 people dead and a person in critical condition yesterday. Crash took place around 1:20 in the afternoon, intersection of Main Street and Marmot Boulevard, located behind Broomfield High School. 2 people died, 1 adult, 1 person under 18. They were in the same car. Person who was critically injured was driving another car involved in the crash, according to police. That person taken to the hospital. No names been released yet. We have 4 of 6 law enforcement officers who were charged with failure to intervene in the death of Christian Glass had appeared in Clear Creek County courtroom yesterday to hear the charges they are facing. Largest number of officers to be charged at one time under the Colorado Senate Bill 217, a police accountability bill. Also, police in Wheat Ridge announced yesterday an arrest in connection with a road rage shooting that happened last month. Keenan Clodfelter was arrested in the case and is facing attempted first-degree murder charge. November 21st, shooting happened at 44th Avenue and Youngfield Street. The victim's an adult male injured from glass that was broken in their car during the shooting.
That's a heck of a last name.
Yeah, it is. It is Clodfelt. I mean, just, geez. Okay. 2 brothers who died in a murder-suicide in Parker last month were actually facing a slew of lawsuits alleging that they defrauded people of more than $4 million and skipped federal court hearings. The Brunners, 48-year-old Grant and 55-year-old Gregory, died November 28th. They say it was a murder-suicide. They declined to say who carried out the shooting, but they did say they faced at least 8 open lawsuits. The last 4 months, some of them were filed from 12 different people who claimed the brothers failed to pay back more than $4 million in loans. And our city's effort to meet Mayor Johnston's goal of housing 1,000 people is trying to be kicked into high gear. City is planning to close several more homeless encampments over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Problem is, some of those micro communities aren't going to be open in time. So where are those homeless people going to be going?
Hey, when do we have Mayor Mike back on?
I don't know. I have to check on that one. I don't have the calendar in front of me. And police in Littleton have issued an arrest warrant for a 39-year-old man in connection with an arson. It was a building under construction last month. James Daigle is accused of setting a 3-story wood frame building alight in downtown Littleton in November 17th. So that's all I got. All right. Oh, and there's a thing with the Colorado School of Mines. Gentleman that plays for the School of Mines, his brother plays on the team he's going to be facing off against for the Division II National Championships.
Oh, the Kelseys again.
Yeah, super cool.
Oh,
so
that's
that's really, really neat. All right, that's all I got, sir. Back to
One
you.
of them will end up dating Taylor Swift, which is interesting.
Yes.
Last real quick thing. I remember in Jefferson County a long time ago, dude had the last name that he changed this to, Billy, Fetus Gruber.
No.
Which, yep, he was in a band. I cannot even remember the crime anymore. It was something misdemeanorish, but he had the name Mephistopheles Fetus Gruber, and I thought, baby eater?
Yeah, I know.
Is that what?
It could have been Fetus Grubber or Fetus Grabber, or I mean, it seems like
it wasn't
so
Grabber
close.
for sure. It wasn't Grabber,
but it sure could have. He came so close.
It was just anyway. Listen, we just have enough time. I want to slip in here a little discussion about Billy's dentist. Billy's dentist is a murderer. Mine are not. Mine are the fantastic doctors Richter and Snyder. They do all the stuff right that you want with a dentist, and that includes making you feel stress-free, at ease. They put you in the chair. They take a look. They don't ask you to do anything unnecessary. They don't recommend things that aren't legit. I know this because I've been to see them now multiple times, and I'm going to keep on seeing them because they're that great. I get to deal with Shiloh as the dental hygienist, and she is fantastic. There's a lot of reasons to call them, and they can do anything, all the heavy lifting stuff. They also do Invisalign, and they do the Botox for the TMJ and for other reasons. They do the dental implants, the bridges. I'm sure I'm leaving some things out. Crowns. They make you taller. No, actually, that's not them. But they do all the other awesome stuff, and they keep your mouth healthy so that your smile is better than it was when you walked in. All you have to do is give them a call, 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466, or check them out at twinaspendentalcenter.com. That's twinaspendentalcenter.com. When we come back, it's the good stuff. It's You Choose the News. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I'm about to turn it over to the big man, but not before I say, Jeff, do great things in school, son. I love you. Jeffy taking off for the big leagues. It's time for You Choose the News with Billy Tees.
Yes, sir. It is disappointing that Jeff is walking out the door right now because he could have learned something, just like all of us are about to with everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. Yes, we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning for life-changing stories about us ridiculous humans, giving them really dumb headlines to play this fake radio news game because they keep letting us. We're super confused about it, but shh, it's a secret. Alrighty, here are your headlines that Jeff is going to miss. Headline number 1, how to get rich. Start when you're 12. Headline number 2, less is more, public school edition. Headline number 3, Megatron is now part of the deep state. And headline number 4, city cancels educational opportunity. Headlines yet again.
I'm going to go Megatron.
Yes. All right. Megatron, now part of the deep state. We are traveling to St. Louis, Missouri. 43-year-old Vincent Grove says, no, officers. You cannot charge me for the theft I have been doing because it was sanctioned by the government. Yes, Mr. Grove said, when I was stealing Transformers, I was not working as a nefarious person associated with Megatron, taking the Transformers from around the city and then selling them off as scrap parts. An individual with the Naval Crimes Investigative Service came to me and told me to do it. So that's why I'm doing it. Yes. So again, I'm just saying that if the government comes to you and says, hey, here's some crime stuff you should do, ask a few more questions.
It's called entrapment too, by the way, just as so you know.
All right. Second choice, how to get rich, less is more, city cancels educational opportunity.
The 12-year-old.
Ah, yes. How to get rich. Start when you are 12. This one comes to us with some visual aids. When he was 12 years old, Gabriel Festosa started his young dog grooming business on the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now he is 31 years old, lives in San Diego, and banks more than $1 million a year
What?
cutting
Doing
dog
what?
hair. Cutting dog hair. He charges a flat rate fee of $800 for your small dog, $1,200 for the big dog. He makes more than $1 million a year, but there's a reason. At first, it sounds crazy, but he makes the animals look, I'm putting them up in front of the camera, look like wild animals. He has cut the hair so they look like
at that.
a giraffe, like a zebra,
Oh my goodness.
like a lion, and even like a leopard.
Oh, if you're not on the Rumble or the YouTubes, you missed out on some real imagery there.
It is. That is serious. At first, I was like, 1 million dog groomer. Okay.
Because I cut the neighbors' dogs' hair all the time. They don't know it.
No,
I just slip out there and do a snip here.
All right, final choice. Less is more. City cancels.
Canceled.
City cancels an educational opportunity. We're going to the beautiful city of Seattle for this one. Unfortunately, the city of Seattle has scrapped a proposed educational opportunity for the youngins in the city. They were going to be building a brand new park that was going to give the kids an opportunity to experience biology, diversity, human relationships, because the park was going to be built next to the local nude beach.
What?
Yeah. So they decided
Seems why you build the park there.
Maybe we don't build the park next to where all the naked people are. So they've decided.
As a dad, I disagree.
So they've decided they're going to move the park. I'm just saying the kids could have learned a whole heck of a lot of stuff. I think we've missed an opportunity here to teach the youngins. I don't know, but that's all we got. That is the end of You Choose the News, and as always, I am your perennial loser, and George is over today. Back to you, sir.
How much time?
You have 15 from now.
Oh, listen. Hey, listen, when we come back, we're going to get into some other discussions. We're going to have Lang Sias in the 7 o'clock hour to talk to us about Colorado's falling competitiveness score. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. It's George Brauchler with the George Show in the 7 o'clock hour on this hump day. That means only 3 hours left before we turn it over to Charlie Kirk, Dennis Prager, Seb Gorka. That gets us all the way to 4 o'clock when Brandon Tatum, new to us, not new to radio, pops on from 4 to 7. That's 12 whole hours of programming. And the three that are local, that's what you get with me and BT's right here. Now, in the bottom half of the hour, we're going to be joined by Lang Sias. I'm certain he's not listening now. That's why he couldn't be on at this point. So I'm happy to share with you the fact that Lang is not only a former legislator. You may recall he was our Republican Party's nominee for lieutenant governor back in 2018. I used to see Lang on the campaign trail when I was the Republican nominee for attorney general during that bloodletting year of 2018. Lang is also a pilot, a graduate of the Top Gun School for the Navy, Naval Weapons, something. It's silly. There was a Tom Cruise movie or two about it. But his call sign is Hog. Still haven't gotten to the bottom of why that is. But he is also a fellow at something called the Common Sense Institute. They've made the mistake of making me also a fellow. I just do the crime stuff. He does a lot of the economic stuff. He's part of this fantastic report that talked about free enterprise and competitiveness. We're going to talk with him at the bottom of the hour about that until he's got to go off and fly around the planet or something like that. I think he barnstorms the White House or something. I want to start a conversation that we're going to revisit probably in the 8 o'clock hour. But there is a case out of Texas that you may be familiar with involving a woman named Kate. Ooh, and of course, as soon as I click on one thing, it takes down another. Bear with me. Kate Cox. She's the Dallas woman who asked the judge to get an abortion in Texas, and the Supreme Court of Texas ruled against her, citing the law in Texas. And it's a very restrictive abortion law. And it depends on which side of the coin you're on, right? Like if you're a pro-life person, you say it's very protective of the unborn. If you're an abortion advocate, maybe you say it limits people's rights or whatever. She's a 31-year-old mother of two. She found out from her doctor that her fetus had some fatal genetic condition, and that if she carried the baby all the way to term, it could jeopardize her future ability to have kids. This is what this article says out of the Washington Post. The case is the first instance of an adult pregnant woman asking a court for permission to terminate her pregnancy under an abortion ban, since Roe versus Wade was decided way back 50 years ago this year, back in 1973. So the court rules against her and the world goes crazy. And you have probably heard, and I've seen this on social media, a ton of blowback on Texas. And it's just easy to punch Texas in the face on this because Texas is widely viewed as a red state, although I think it's definitely showing some signs of bluing. And the argument has been, this is what happens when Republicans are in control. And this is now Republicans forcing a woman to carry a baby to term that puts her at risk. And it's horrible because the baby isn't going to live anyway. What horrible monsters the Republicans are for putting this law in place and forcing this woman to have this baby. So turns out I'm a lawyer guy, or at least I'm legally trained. Nobody ever checks to see if I'm a licensed attorney or ever have been. I find that fascinating given how many times I've been on the ballot for jobs that require you to be one. Nonetheless, I went ahead and printed off the 7-page opinion. And I started to read through it. And what I've discovered is, and I know this is going to come a shock to exactly none of you, but the reporting here is incomplete. It's so incomplete, it allows this misleading narrative about what the court has done, these god-awful Texans, in forcing this woman to have this abortion. But let me read to you portions of the opinion so that you understand what has taken place. Now, keep in mind, I think this is going to be a bludgeon that is used in the 2024 elections. I know Billy does too. In fact, I'm going to continue to go back here and give Billy credit for this. At the time that gosh dang it, Billy, what was the name of the case that overturned Roe versus Wade? It was,
Dobbs?
I'm having a Biden
Dobbs.
moment here. Dobbs, thank you. At the time Dobbs was decided, I knew it was a big deal. I didn't think it was that big a deal. Billy's like, oh man, this is going to crush the Republicans. And if you recall when it happened, it was so long before. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think most of this is baked in already, and I don't think it's that big a deal. Billy's like, no, it's going to be horrible. And I was like, what do you know? You know what I mean? Like, I'm the super smart guy. And it turns out it's the opposite. It was, what did Billy know? Because Billy was the super smart guy. It ended up leading to blue waves. It's such a level that on a midterm election where you would expect the Republicans to make massive gains everywhere, we didn't. You know what I mean? Like, we lost the Senate and won the House by Santos +4. You know what I mean? Like that was it. So this one, the Democrats think they've figured out the formula. They used to run on abortion when it was theoretical or possible that Roe versus Wade would be overturned. Now they have a live example of those bastards, those Republican bastards who are going to try to tell a woman what she can do with her body, including reproductive choices. But then you read the opinion and it makes me wonder, am I the only person that read the opinion? Because it doesn't read the way the article does. You come away from the articles like that court is just, that's not it at all. Let me just read you different snippets so you understand what's happening from the Supreme Court. This is case number 23-0994. You can find this easily, PDF version online. I did. It's called in regards. State of Texas, Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, in his official capacity as Attorney General of Texas, Texas Medical Board, and Stephen Brent Carlton in his official capacity as Executive Director of the Texas Medical Board. This is on a petition for writ of mandamus. This is a per curiam opinion, and it reads pretty easily up front what we described. Kate Cox and her husband, Justin, are the parents of 2 children. Miss Cox is about 20 weeks pregnant with a 3rd child, one who has received a tragic diagnosis. The Coxes and their doctor sue to prevent the enforcement of Texas laws that generally prohibit abortion. These laws reflect the policy choice that the legislature has made, and the courts must respect that choice. Part of the legislature's choice is to permit a significant exception to the general prohibition against abortion, and it has delegated to the medical rather than the legal profession the decision about when a woman's medical circumstances warrant this exception. This is the key. Right now, what this opinion is telling you is the court is saying, this really isn't our business, right? Like, well, there's already an exception that exists in the law that never requires anybody to go to court to bother us about this, right? To ask our opinion, because it's already baked in. We delegate it to the doctors. They go on. The law allows an abortion when, and then they quote the law verbatim, in the exercise of reasonable medical judgment, the pregnant female has a life-threatening physical condition aggravated by, caused by, or arising from a pregnancy that places the female at risk of death or poses a serious risk of substantial impairment of a major bodily function unless the abortion is performed or induced. If you stop there, you go, well, that's the whole point, George. That's the whole point. She has such a diagnosis. The doctor has said that. Why in the world won't they let her have an abortion? Well, they go on. And they describe what a serious risk is. All this, they get to this. In this case, the pleadings state that Mrs. Cox's doctor, Dr. Damla Carson, if I'm saying that wrong, forgive me, believes Miss Cox qualifies for an abortion based on that medical necessity exception. Well, that's it, right? Next sentence. But when she sued seeking a court's pre-authorization, Dr. Carson did not assert that she has a life-threatening physical condition or that in her reasonable medical judgment, an abortion is necessary because Miss Cox has the type of condition the exception requires. That's it, man. That's game, set, and match. What the court is saying in that 5th full paragraph is, you didn't do the thing you should have done that you didn't even need to come to us for. The opinion goes on to say that we're not even supposed to be involved in this decision-making. If you, Dr. Carson, simply certify that your patient meets that definition, go do the abortion. You never need to come to the court. But the doctor never did it, even though the doctor says the condition exists. And so it makes me wonder, what is going on here? It says the exception requires a doctor to decide when Mrs. Cox's difficulty posed such risks. Dr. Carson asked a court to pre-authorize the abortion, yet she could not, or at least did not, attest to the court that Mrs. Cox's condition poses the risks the exception requires. What? If you're the doctor and you say this thing exists, all you have to do, according to the law, is attest to it, and you're in the end zone. What's going on here? You don't read this in any of the articles. Nobody says the doctor refused to certify that this baby poses a risk to the health of the mother. And we've always heard that, right? The exceptions that you always hear are, I'm opposed to abortion except in rape and incest and the life of the mother. This is the life of the mother part. This exception exists. And you read in all the articles, oh my God, a doctor said her life is at risk and all. But they didn't. They didn't attest to it. And if they had, we wouldn't need to get pre-authorization from a court. It makes me wonder, in this horrible and tragic situation, if this poor woman, I don't blame her at all, this poor 31-year-old mother of two isn't somehow being manipulated into becoming the poster child for any law that outlaws abortion. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that. And in no way am I impugning her character or integrity or suggesting that what she's going through isn't real or horrific, or I can't, because I'm a dude, I can't possibly relate to it. That's true, all true. I am a guy who has gone through miscarriages before, and some of those miscarriages required that whatever the initials are, that where they have to remove the fetus. I've been through that. I've witnessed the horror of that. Okay, so I don't know, but I've seen a little bit, right? So I'm not calling her into question. I'm just saying, what's going on here? 303-696-1971. Had you read that anywhere else? Had you heard that from any media outlets? Why would they be so complicit in not reporting this kind of information? I just think it's fascinating that we're at this particular place in time where the politics of abortion have gotten to the place where the reporting, this is going to try to light a fire. I saw tweets from Hillary Clinton, for God's sake. Here's, well, that's from Alexa. Here's one. This is George. Will you please post this in your social media so I can share with my left-wing friends? Yeah, if I can. I don't know how to post a PDF in there, but I'll figure it out. George, I don't know what the topics are for today, but I hope to hear your take on the $61 billion that Biden wants to give Ukraine. It would be interesting here. We could get there. We'll definitely get there. Oh my gosh, look at all these ones I missed from before, Billy. Sweet mother of goodness. There's a billion of these things. I want to post this thing. I'm troubled by it. I'm a pro-life guy, right? I'm in a pro-life guy in a state that authorizes abortion up to and including graduation from high school or a junior college or something like that. Like, you can kill your kids at almost any moment here in Colorado. Texas is different. But this opinion makes me wonder if Texas isn't being used to advance a false narrative here about what these laws do, or at least what this law does. This is incredible. I thought it was pretty incredible. A woman who meets the medical necessity exception need not seek a court order to obtain an abortion. Under the law, it is a doctor who must decide that a woman is suffering from a life-threatening condition during a pregnancy, raising the necessity for an abortion to save her life or to prevent impairment of a major bodily function. The law leaves, and this is italicized, that's emphasis added, the law leaves to physicians, not judges, both the discretion and the responsibility to exercise their reasonable medical judgment given the unique facts and circumstances of each patient. So why didn't they do it here? Why didn't they do it here? all the social media garbage that you hear from the lefties out there are Texas is going to force a woman to have a dangerous pregnancy, carry it to term that poses a risk to her life. Well, her doctor doesn't say that, not even in a legal way. She may say it in interviews. She may put it out there so that it can be gobbled up and spit back out in social media. But she's not willing to attest to it for purposes of allowing this woman access to an abortion for the life or health of the mother. Why is that? I mean, what is going on here? I haven't seen even any interviews with the doctor to the extent that they'd be willing to have them. This woman, her attorney, if she went to court, like, why not interview the attorney? Why doesn't the doctor just say it imperils her health or her life? 303-696-1971 is the number. There's some kind of weirdness going on here. It feels like manipulated facts, but I just don't know what can be done about it. I mean, how much of this is, I should tell you what made me think of this in part two. And Billy and I talked before the show about what this says about the media. There was an article that Jesse Paul from the Colorado Sun had tweeted about. And it was an article that talked about some polling and opinions and stuff. And he was bummed out that only 36% of the poll responding populace trusted media. And I think he took it as an affront. And I guess I would too, right? Like, so he says, we make mistakes and we try to own up to those mistakes and all that. But, we're honest people trying to do an honest job. And my tweet back to him was, and I've known Jesse for a long time and I like him and I think he's a good, credible reporter. And I tweeted back, all attorneys feel your pain because we also get crushed with the low approval ratings. And it's not for the good ones, it's for the bad ones. But this kind of a story, Jesse, is what I'm talking about. And I think it's what other people being polled are talking about. This story that I read to you from the Washington Post, and I didn't read you the whole thing, but different snippets, it is factually correct, but it doesn't tell the right story. It doesn't tell the accurate story. Well, why would somebody at the Washington Post, the uber conservative Washington Post, write a story that made you draw the conclusion that Texas are filled with bastards, including the Supreme Court forcing this woman to have this very dangerous pregnancy? Well, I think the conclusion that everyone's going to draw is because that's their agenda. That's the issue they want to push. But the truth is, and what the opinion in 7 pages, it didn't even need that long to make this clear, is there's an easy out here. If this is for the life or health of the mother, then doctor, just say so. You didn't need to come to us. It just makes me wonder why they picked this case to come to them. If I'm being super conspiratorial, if I'm going full Tina Peters on this thing, then and right now some of you are like, how dare you, George? She is a hero. I get it. I understand cape and everything. But if I'm going to go full conspiratorial on here, I get the feeling that they identify this woman. They say, well, actually, we could probably justify her getting an abortion without going to the courts. But what if we don't? What if her case is so tragic? She's the perfect mom. She's 31. She's got 2 prior kids, wants to have the baby. This isn't the unwanted baby thing. But they've got this horrible diagnosis. I wonder if at some level, and I don't know what it would take to get there, somebody is manipulating her into going down this road. And it would be so cruel if that were true. I can't believe she would be a party to this. Cannot believe she would be a party to this. So somebody is manipulating her. Here it is right here. G. Colonel. As bright as you are, I can't believe you can't see the propaganda for the pro-abortion crowd. Legalese matters. I mean, I never took the LSATs, same, but my simple omission of the medical condition caused this to be a national brouhaha. So this being an issue, had it been done the way it was supposed to be done legally, this would have been a no-brainer. Not only a no-brainer, she would have gotten the abortion. It would have happened. Game, set, match, over. Instead, she doesn't. Now it's this whole drama of she has to leave the state to go do this. She didn't even have to leave the state. If the damn doctor would just certify that this poses a risk to her life or health, they can do it in Texas. I don't get it. Someone texted in, more abortions equal less liberals. George, you have read the pleadings filed by the Texas attorney? No, didn't read the pleadings. It sounds like it would be an unethical pleading if they can't make the factual claim supported by the doctor's affidavit. Well, maybe I need to take a look at that and see. And if that's what the doctor is saying, that I can't attest to the fact that in my reasonable medical, opinion, that this would pose a risk to the life of the mother, then there's a whole bunch of garbage media out there that are making this sound like that's exactly what's going on here. But that's not the case. And maybe at the end of the day, what this case is really about is, yep, there's no medical necessity. There's no risk to the life of the mother or the health of the mother, even though you read that in there. Remember that? It would cause a risk to her fertility. Do you remember seeing that? When I read that to you, remember hearing that? That would be an impairment of bodily function that would qualify here. So if that was legit, the doctor could attest to that. Boom, they're off to the races. But maybe this is just about someone who could take the baby to term, but my God, why would you do that? The baby is doomed and may even end up being a stillbirth. I don't know the answer to that one, but that is certainly not how this is being portrayed, either in that Washington Post article or in social media. Let's do this. I want to have this conversation with you because I think it's that important. Remember, it's the birthday for our good friends at the National Guard, 387 years strong. When we come back after a little bit of a break here, we're going to have Lang Sias. He was never a member of the National Guard. He's only been a member of the Navy in a landlocked state, which makes no sense to me, but we'll explore that with him when we come back. Before we cut away, I want to tell you about Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. They're the folks that make the buying and the selling of the homes, even in this ridiculously tortured market, easy, or at least easier. That's because they care about you. They care about families. Sure, they're going to make a dollar here or there somewhere because they've been doing it for decades. But I'm telling you what, if you're looking for someone you can trust, why not go with an organization that prioritizes families, prioritizes putting you and your family in the best situation you need, whatever that family looks like. Maybe you're bigger than you were before, smaller than you were before. And I'm not talking in the way that guys in their 50s like Billy and I get bigger. I'm talking about more members or less members. Maybe you're taking care of parents. You need a different situation. Let Gay help you get there. All you have to do is call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. They make guarantees to you. Like if we can't sell your house in the timing or price that we agree upon, we'll get you the money in cash. We'll make up the difference. Check them out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. That's sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. When we come back, Lang Sias, you, me, and Colorado. It's failing on the competitiveness scale. We'll talk about that when we come back. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Well, we'll continue that topic in the 8 o'clock hour, but I want to shift gears right now. Bring up on the VIP line. He goes by Hog in the Navy. It's still, there's nobody has ever explained that, Lang, but it's Lang Sias, former legislator, current pilot extraordinaire, father of athletes, including a wrestler. Thanks for joining us, my man.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, George. Appreciate the chance to be here.
Now, listen, I got to see Lang yesterday at a pretty cool event that took place at Mile High. Now, some will say, do you mean Empower? No, at Mile High. And it was a Common Sense Institute big free enterprise presentation luncheon, kind of an annual thank you to everybody. And some people got awards, including Mayor Suthers. And I thought that was pretty cool. But then a guy dressed in a suit. We were talking about Die Hard earlier, Lang, and I guess you're our modern era Hans Gruber. And I told Lang he looked very
I'm
European.
not sure that's a good thing.
I told Lang, I said, you look very European, mostly because of the glasses, but he was just so perfectly dressed with the form-fitting suit for a dude who's in great shape. And he went up there and gave a talk about some of the great work that he and the Smarty Smarts at CSI, they have a ton of economists, have put together. And it was all about free enterprise. And at the end of the day, the conclusion about Colorado's competitiveness, and I'll ask you to define that after we get this, is what, Lang? Are we going up, down, staying the same? Where are we compared to all the other states out there?
Well, we're still in a strong position, but we're slipping. And there are some real signs that we have decreased in our competitiveness. And what we mean by that, if you'll allow me, is, where do we stack up against other states? Because it's one thing to take a look at ourselves and say, hey, we're doing worse or better in various categories year over year. But we need to remember that we're always in a competition with other states. And Utah, for example, is doing very, very well. And so by a number of metrics that we looked at, and I'm sure we'll flesh some of this out this morning, Colorado is slipping in competitiveness, and we have some recommendations for some things that our legislators can think about to try and maintain our competitive position. But we dropped from number 1 to number 8 just over the last several years.
And that part was key to me, was when you're talking about economic performance, that may be the number one driver of people and businesses to our state, is the opportunity to be prosperous here. And we were number one. I remember that. I don't remember what year it was, but it felt like it was the other day. And then when you did the presentation yesterday and you had up the map of the United States, and it had us with an 8 in it, and next door to us was Utah, which makes it far easier to go from the airport to their ski resorts. That's an aside. I thought, uh-oh. I mean, this is, we had the state demographer online a while ago, and she was talking about some of the changes that are taking place in the state. I wonder if this isn't one of the causes for that.
Well, we've looked at, and I'm sure when you chatted with the demographer, you got into some of this, but we have looked at our migration statistics. And what we've noticed is that over the last couple of years, we've seen a fairly rapid drop off in net migration into the state. Now, if that is the beginning of a new trend, as opposed to just being an anomaly, that could have some very serious consequences. And we've modeled some of them for our workforce, for our tax base, and so forth. And what's interesting is it's easy to look at the last couple of years and say, well, that's all a result of COVID and so forth. And we would never say that 2 years makes a trend. But on the other hand, if you look at two of our key geographic competitor states, Utah being one and Arizona another, their net migration continued to increase during that same period where ours dropped off. And people can make, and businesses as well, can make no stronger statement than the one that they make when they vote with their feet. So that is something that we need to pay very close attention to. And as you probably know, our workforce here, which has always been one of our real strengths, there's a bit of what's called the Colorado paradox, in the sense that while we have the number 2 most educated workforce in the country, our high school graduation rates, and we'll probably get to education here in a little while, but our high school graduation rates are near the bottom. So what we've been doing for decades is importing talent. And if all of a sudden we see a dramatic slowdown in the talent we're able to import, you can see the consequences that would have for our economy and, again, for our competitiveness.
Here are two of the things that jumped out at me from the report that I have in front of me. And folks, you can go out there and find this thing at commonsenseinstituteco.org, commonsenseinstituteco.org. It says the index for net interstate migration dropped 28.9% from 2017 to 2023. That is huge. And then the bullet below it talked about the fact that even though our median household income increased 13.4% over that same period, our competitiveness, or the index, actually had us falling by a huge chunk because of all the other states that seem to be outperforming us in increased median income. So, if you're Governor Polis or the legislature, you can say, oh, we have an increase in median income. But it's like, yeah, a little bit compared to everybody else. What's going on?
Well, that's a great point. And, you can see some very interesting outcomes here when you can actually improve in an area. But as you mentioned, if other states improve more, then you drop in your national competitiveness. And we think that's a really, really important thing to be looking at here, because, again, we operate in a competitive environment and not in a vacuum. And we point in a number of places here, and as CSI has done in a number of reports this year, Colorado has just become a very expensive place to live and an expensive place to do business. And policies enacted at the state and local level have played a role in that. And so when you start to see who is migrating here, for example, you'll see more folks flowing into the business and professional services area, presumably people who are more highly compensated and can afford a higher cost of living. But our manufacturing sector has stayed relatively flat, again, as distinguished from our competitors in Arizona.
We're talking with Lang Sias. He's the Mike Leprino Free Enterprise Fellow at the Common Sense Institute. There are a bunch of performance areas or policy areas that you guys analyze in this giant thing. I mean, this is a huge publication, man. This is like the old days when you used to get like small yellow pages on your step or something. This thing is so jam-packed full of research and stuff. It's ridiculous. But here are the areas: education, energy, healthcare, housing, infrastructure, public safety, state budget, taxes and fees, aggregate free enterprise competitiveness index. Now, there are some that jump out that are just way below mid, but housing is the worst.
Housing is a well-known problem area for us, and part of that is demand, and it is inflation. It's been an attractive place to live for a lot of years, but there has also been a lack of comprehensive action on some of the issues that underlie the housing shortage, whether it's land use, it's permitting, it's building codes, or, as you well know, our construction defects policies have played a role as well. So policy matters, and that's one of the really important points of this report, is that policy matters and leadership matters. And in housing, we just haven't seen the action that would help alleviate that.
Well, and this jumped out at me, Lang, was that the performance indicator here, out of 51 possible, I guess, jurisdictions, all 50 states plus the District of Columbia, Colorado ranks
51st.
51st
in housing affordability. And by the way, all the data that we use and the methodology that we use is included in the report. And that's something to really emphasize about Common Sense Institute, is we are very, very data driven. So everything in here has data behind it.
Yeah,
and part of what drives the housing affordability is just simply, how many weeks do you have to work in a year to be able to afford your rent or a mortgage here relative to those numbers in other locations.
This was that number, Lang. It says it now takes 96 hours of work at the median wage to afford the mortgage on the median priced home. That's a 180% increase from the 44 hours required in 2011. That's a shocking increase over about a 11-year period of time. But to your point about the data, I think there are those out there, and they're in power, who say, well, this is clearly a conservative or right-leaning organization because of these reports. I think what people fail to see is these are numbers generated as the result of policies that have been in existence. And if you accept the fact that Democrats have been in charge of government at almost every level unimpeded over this period of time, it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's a numbers thing. And if you're the party in power and you've had the policies for the last 10 years, it will feel like this is a commentary on you or your party. It's not. It's a commentary on your policies. And that's what's put us in this position.
Well, and again, we're first of all a nonpartisan organization.
That's right,
whose
nonpartisan.
role is to educate and inform. And second of all, it's a bipartisan group. For example, we have 12 fellows who research, write, and speak on various subjects, and it is absolutely a bipartisan group. And I think and the fact that it is bipartisan and that we are relying on data that we are happy to make available to anybody that's interested, I think is what makes the organization effective. I'll just give you an example. Our housing fellow, Peter Lafari.
Oh, that dude is awesome. I've had him on the radio, Lang. He's awesome.
He's terrific. But his research gave birth to a Denver Post editorial talking about the need for more condominiums and talking about the need for reform in the construction defects area. And I think that that just speaks to the breadth of research and impact that the organization has. It's key to credibility.
Yeah, agreed. And when I had Lafari on, it was as a result of something like I saw with you, where, except I already knew you, I was on some panel with this guy. You've done this before too, Lang. And I felt like the stupidest guy on the stage because all of these other subject matter experts were saying stuff where I'm like, holy crap, they really are subject matter experts. I'm just some dork they hired to talk about, criminal justice stuff. But Lafari, I'm listening to this guy. I'm like, everything he says makes sense to me. And so, it's one of those things where they put together a team of superstars. I'm not really sure how you and I slipped through, honestly, Lang. I don't know if it's
well, people are going to get through the cracks every once in a while.
When you look at this, what are other than housing, which is by far the worst, right, in terms of the outlook, what are the other ones that jumped out to you as you and the economists started going through this and you thought, wow, didn't see that coming?
Well, one, of course, and one that you're familiar with is the public safety area, where we've had, have fallen rather fast in terms of our ranking nationally, due to some pretty unfavorable trends in retail crime and auto theft and in violent crime. And you're pretty familiar with those numbers, I know. And then the other thing about this, and you may want to speak to this as well, is the fact that even though our funding for public safety has improved, and that's a good thing, and it has improved, money doesn't necessarily translate to improved public safety right away or at all. One of the issues that we're facing is that our number of police officers as a percentage of the population has not grown in the way that it needs to. And one of the things standing in the way of that, as former Denver Police Chief Paul Pazin is a fellow at Common Sense Institute, that he'll point out that we haven't resolved the issue of qualified immunity, which is putting a lot of potential hires off. And then some of the legislation that was passed, thanks to the good work of some of our fellows, whether it's in auto theft, in fentanyl, or in retail theft, there's a lead time there before those start to have an impact. We have started to see an impact on the auto theft side, but it does take a while for those to mature. So public safety is a big issue for us.
Well, and looking at the research here, our public safety competitiveness index, when ranked by other states, if you go back 10 years to 2013, we were in the top half. We were ranked 24th. You go to this year, and dude, we're ranked 31st. Like, we are not going the right direction here.
Yeah, it's and those are quality of life issue. Those are quality of life issues that when you add to the cost of living here, and of course there's a big overlap there with things like auto insurance and so forth. But those are quality of life issues that make this very attractive state less appealing, and so they contribute to our competitiveness absolutely. And the other one that I'll mention here, and I know you have some limited time this morning, but is education, where overall our score was a 4. We're in the second quintile with a neutral outlook. But it is important to look at a couple of things that are going on as you open up the report and start to read. You'll see, of course, that we're down at 46th in high school graduation rate, which has always been a challenge for us. And even though our funding is at an all-time high, and that's a good thing, and credit to them for making that happen. But our percentage of dollars that are actually going to the classroom has declined 12 spots, and we're ranking 49th there. So that's one of the reasons you'll see in the report that we have a neutral outlook going forward, is because there's no guarantee that changes are going to be made that see that a higher percentage of those dollars go to our classrooms, go to our teachers, and actually improve student outcomes.
Lang Sias, the Mike Loprino Fellow, Free Enterprise Fellow for Common Sense Institute. Thanks for taking time out of your busy morning, man. I know you got to go do some traveling. Have safe travels. We'll continue to talk about you behind your back.
Thanks so much, George. Really appreciate it. And you have a very Merry Christmas.
Amen. Have a new year too, buddy. A good new year. Listen, that's Lang Sias. We're going to cut away for a quick break. Come back. We'll have conversations with you about this. 303-696-1971, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Lang Sias, the Mike A. Loprino Free Enterprise Fellow at the Common Sense Institute. You can find that report at commonsenseinstituteco.org. They're blowing up everywhere, going to Iowa, Oregon, Arizona. They're going to take over the world. I just hope they drag me to Hawaii when they get there. I want to tell you about something you can do. Not tickets to Hawaii for the holidays, but you can give that special someone in your life, your mom, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever it is, and that's a Bovisage skincare and spa certificate to go to a package of any kind to go there after Christmas and just really relax, feel good about themselves. Maybe it's a new start. Maybe it's the way to kick off 2024 with an all new outlook. They do everything from the therapeutic massage sessions and all that. Give them a call, 303-779-5002. 303-779-5002 or bbspa.com. That's bbspa.com. George Brauchler here, 710 KNUS. We're halfway through the halfway show during the week. It's hump day. That's Wednesday. It's the lucky 13th of December. As you know, it is the 387th birthday of our beloved National Guard. That's the militia, I guess, in some ways. I don't know. No, don't call in and say Second Amendment militia. It's not that. But it is the militia that stood up and helped America carve out a little bit of safety for itself from the bad guys. Here's what we've been talking about before we head on the great Lang Sias from the Common Sense Institute. And that is this Texas Supreme Court opinion that has created a bit of a firestorm in terms of pushback against Texas and Republicans in general who have made efforts, some states have made efforts to limit a pregnant person's ability to terminate their pregnancy. And they've limited it in Texas down to things that involve the life of the mother. That's not a judge-made decision. That's a doctor-made decision. And so you have this case with Kate Cox, who's the 31-year-old mother of two. She's married. They have a third baby. They want a third baby. This isn't one of those, wandering around getting pregnant by every other dude that walks around the corner. It's not that kind of a case. Very sympathetic case. The diagnosis for the baby, it's the kind of thing you just simply can't envision hearing from a doctor about the thing growing inside of you. And I don't know what that's like to have anything grow inside of you. So if you're the husband, you only have the ability to sit shotgun to this horror as it's sort of revealed to your wife or significant other and try to deal with that. So I can't imagine hearing the words that she heard about this awful and lethal diagnosis for her baby. So she wants to get an abortion, but what it's couched in terms of the news is, and this is a quote from the Washington Post from Nancy Northup, president and CEO of the Center for Reproductive Rights. And when they talk about reproductive rights, they're only talking about abortion. That's the only thing they ever spend money on. They're not spending money on how do we have better babies. It's how do you get abortions? And this is what she says. This past week of legal limbo has been hellish for Kate. Her health is on the line. She's been in and out of emergency rooms, and she couldn't wait any longer. And that's interesting because in the 7-page opinion by the Texas Supreme Court that I read to you portions of, it makes it pretty clear that her doctor has never, ever attested that in the exercise of her reasonable medical judgment, that Kate has a life-threatening physical condition caused by, or arising from a pregnancy that places the female at risk of death or, and this is big, or poses a serious risk of substantial impairment of a major bodily function unless the abortion is performed or induced. And what we've read in all of these articles that don't cite anything about the Texas opinion in substance is that her ability to have babies in the future may be put at risk by taking this particular pregnancy to term. Well, that's the impairment of a bodily function that would qualify under this. And yet, weirdly, her doctor, I presume an OB-GYN, has failed to or refused to, and that's language similar to what the Supreme Court said, certify that condition exists, because if she had, they wouldn't have never needed to come to the court. And it just makes it feel like it's a manipulated situation. But the reason it's manipulated, and part of the conversation that I want to have with you, and I talked with Billy about this off the air, was whether or not this abortion issue is again going to show up on the ballot in 2024 and hamper Republicans' ability to make any headway, candidate-wise for sure, headway on regaining some sanity and control, certainly in the state of Colorado, but elsewhere. You've seen the same things I have. Outside of limited circumstances, when things are put on the ballot for voters, not legislators, voters, when it comes to abortion, they're voting for more access, not less. Look at Kansas. Look at Ohio. I'm probably leaving out some good examples that you can think of right now. When voters get to vote on whether or not to limit the right to abortion or to expand it. They vote against limiting it and they vote to expand it. It feels like for the voting populace, the ship has sailed on this topic to some extent. In no way am I saying that means we ought to become pro-choice. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the reality of the political environment is that pro-choice issues on the ballot tend to win. And what they do is they begin to shape part of the campaign and they shape the minds of those who are getting this on their ballot. I said this 2 years ago, well, back in 2022, after what happened in 2022, the little bloodletting there, that abortion is it's legal here in the state of Colorado by virtue of a statute. But based on what took place in Ohio and other places, I'm convinced that the Dems are going to run a constitutional amendment in 2024 that provides the most liberal, broadest protection for abortion probably in the world, but at least America. That's the way our statutes read right now. We have the most liberal abortion law probably in America, if not on the planet Earth. Second, maybe to North Korea or something like that, maybe China. But that's going to show up on our ballots in 2024. Well, now what? I mean, if you're a Republican in a contested race, do you know where this is going to help the Dems? How about CD8? Remember that one that Barbara Kirkmeyer lost by a whisker because some selfish libertarian showed up on the ballot and said, I demand to have my 4 or 5% of the vote, even if it means Dr. Caraveo, who will pay herself out of her political contributions, even if it means she gets to go back to Congress. Who does this benefit? How about a Dr. Caraveo, who gets to now run on, I fully support a woman's right to choose and bliggity, blah, blah, blah. Huge fundraising thing for her. Could be a game changer, even in the very conservative northern part of the state. How about in a campaign in CD3 against Lauren Boebert? And again, I just presume Lauren's going to win the nomination. I get that, and I want to have this Jeff Hurd guy on. I don't think I know him. I may have met him back in the day, but I don't know him. I'd love to have a conversation with him, but I don't care who endorses him or whether he can put some bucks together. I need to see some polling that shows that he is within striking distance, because Boebert has name ID and she has decent money. Whether or not she wins the general or not may turn to some extent not on what took place in that DCPA theater, wherever it was, with the night vision cameras. And by the way, who saw that coming? That they have night vision cameras that monitor you in the dark when you're scratching here or picking there or falling asleep. I mean, or groping your buddy. I don't know. That's just weird. But I don't know if that'll be the issue, or the fact that now abortion will be back on the ballot in the state of Colorado. It's coming. It's coming. Have we become, as Billy put it, the dog that caught the car on this abortion thing? Dobbs overturned abortion, and now we're going to get bludgeoned again. And you can see the press lining up to help them do this. When you have this story out of Texas where they talk about, oh, the life of the mother and the life of the mother. Well, it turns out it's not about the life of the mother. And if it were about the health of the mother, the doctor could have attested to that, but she didn't. Now, somebody texted in and said, hey, what about the pleadings in there? And maybe they looked at it and I didn't, where the Kate Cox's attorneys pled that somehow the doctor couldn't ethically attest to that. And that doesn't make sense to me, given the stories that were written, unless the stories, including Mrs. Abortion on Demand Club or whatever it was that I read to you, saying that her health was at risk. I don't see that they've adopted that same mantra here. Here's some texts that have come in. And now the Supreme Court is hearing the abortion pill mess. Should be fun on the campaign. That's true. Another text. A grand jury convened in D.C. that voted 92% for Biden. Evidence fed to them, I think you meant fed to them, by crazy Jack Smith, charging him under statutes never meant to be used this way. What's that?
How do they know how the grand jury voted? How do they know they're Trump supporters versus Biden supporters?
I don't know.
Well, the texter, though, comes to that conclusion. I'm curious how. What information have we been given to show they're those voters?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, I think what they're talking about is Washington, D.C. has a 92% support for Biden. And since they came from D.C., it must be that. I don't think you can make that conclusion. But even if that were true, what's the answer then? You could never have a grand jury from Washington, D.C. It sounds like, too, you could never have a federal grand jury in Texas involving Joe Biden, which Trump won
have
handily.
A grand jury from the opposite political party.
Yeah,
so now we are going to adjudicate our crimes based on politics. That's going to work out.
I just don't buy it. And first off, the grand jury is just an investigative and charging tool. They're not the finders of fact when it comes to guilt. So I'm just not that concerned with all that stuff. Someone's going to look at the transcript and they'll let us know. But I just don't think you can be like, oh, grand jury in D.C., boom, the fix was in. No, it just doesn't work like that. But that wasn't our topic for the thing. The Center for Reproductive Rights saying that it had to do with Kate Cox's health. We know that part is far less true than they put out there. But is this the kind of thing now? Are we destined to suffer more losses at the polls because of stories like this and the abortion issue? I mean, has the abortion issue in many ways in the general election become a loser for Republicans? I mean, it used to be the thing that wouldn't just spur on the grassroots, but you could have a legitimate argument about pro-life and pro-choice back when it was all theoretical about Roe being overturned. But here we are, man. We're stuck. We're stuck in a place where Roe versus Wade is gone. And if you're a conservative, you've been championing that outcome for decades. You have said this is not a Supreme Court issue. This is not a federal issue. It is a state issue. And so sure enough, now it is. And what we're seeing is it's a great opportunity, having spent 50 years inculcating multiple generations with the notion that the right to abortion is something that is just part of freedom here in America, that every time it's on the ballot, we seem to lose. We seem to suffer. Is that what's coming for us? I mean, the other part of this story, by the way, that I'm interested in is for the conversation piece about, well, okay, what if it isn't for the life of the mother? What if it's because we know the baby is going to be deformed or genetically deficient, or in this case, has some kind of likely life-ending problem with it? And I don't know if it's a disease or a genetic disorder, but some problem. Do you feel comfortable with the idea of expanding your conversation about when abortion is appropriate or permissible? Not necessarily appropriate, but permissible, to include not just rape and incest and life of the mother, but whether or not the child is going to be born with serious defects or even in this case, some sort of life-ending malady? Would you ever go down that road if you're a pro-life person, given this and given how this is going to be used? 303-696-1971 is our phone number. I'd love to tell you while we're waiting for the calls to fill up. I think we got some texts coming in as well. I'd love to tell you about Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. Mitch, family guy, started his family when he came over here from communist-controlled Romania as a young man and started a business that has just been undeniably successful, but also has put the smile on so many homeowners' faces, because what he does is he upgrades the countertops in your kitchen, your bathroom, your laundry. Maybe you're about to finish a basement. I don't know. This guy has been there and done that. Invite him into your house and let's see what he can do for you. Now, if you're a 710 listener, well, let's stop there. If you're just Joe Schmo or Jane Schmo, you're going to get wholesale prices. That's just the baseline that Mitch starts at. But if you tell him you're a George listener, a 710 listener, well, then you get something special. Then you get a free bathroom countertop with the kitchen countertop package for free. But if you're only doing one room, that's cool too. He'll still make it worth your while by saying, I'll throw in the sink for free with the countertop package. That's all it takes. There's a couple ways you can do this. Go to theartofgranite.com, a completely misleading website title because it's so much more than granite. It includes marble and quartz and all the other surfaces that you can use to make a counter out of. theartofgranite.com, or you can give them a call, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. That's Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. Let me go to some of the texts here. Here's one. George Good commentary by Dr. Jundepp on abortion issue in GOP, and they sent a link at American Thinker. I just need to go check that out. Here's another text. Put your wife/daughter in her place. What should Cox do? I don't know about put my wife or daughter in her place. I don't clearly have the ability to influence any of the decisions that they make. I never have. But what should Cox do? I think Cox should ask her doctor to certify that she is eligible for an abortion under the provision that's carved out in the statute, and should demand to know why the doctor can't say that. Maybe it's about finding a different doctor that can say that. But I don't know what else to tell her. I mean, to some extent, we're acting like the abortion is the only possible outcome here that makes any sense, and any law that would prevent it must be the wrong law. I've heard other people out there saying things like, well, you know what? Carrying the baby to term, and I think she's 20 weeks along, so that'd be another 20. Folks, that's a long time. What is that, 4.5 months? Another 20 weeks. That she should carry that thing to term, that baby to term, and even if it's a stillbirth, that's preferable to the idea that we're going to start terminating babies because they're disabled or genetically malformed or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer for her is, but I'm not sure that the analysis the judge ought to have is, well, here's what the law says, but I'm going to figure out a way to get around the law in order for you to accomplish something I agree with. That's just judicial activism. I want the judges to take the position that they've taken here and say, hey, listen, this is a policy. This isn't a judge decision. This is a policy decision by the Texas legislators. They've created an exception. This doctor refuses to certify that she has it. Now what? What do you want us to do? This should, and they've even pretty much said between the lines, this shouldn't be about us. We shouldn't be the ones that have to give a crap. This is a doctor decision. That's why the statute was written the way it was. It just makes me wonder if all of this isn't some manicured, manipulated effort, and it victimizes Kate Cox to put her in this position to say, well, hey, there's an issue here. Maybe we can turn Texas blue, because you know this thing is going to show up in just about every political ad for every office, including dog catcher in Texas in 2024. So we got to do something here. I just don't know what the answer is. I certainly don't think Texas's Supreme Court did anything wrong. They did exactly what we want a Supreme Court to do, not to substitute its own judgment or values for the law, but to read the law, apply it to the facts, and say, hey, this is how this thing plays out. I appreciate that. I just don't know what the next steps are. 303-696-1971 is our number. I'm trying to get to the little other texty thing here. Let's do this. Let me do a live read for you, and then we'll cut away for a break, and we'll come back, and I'll start to get through some of these other texts that we've been receiving as we're talking here. What's the right answer on this? Are the Republicans on the wrong side of history on pro-life? Is it coming back? Do you ever see it coming back to the way it was? I think for a lot of Republicans, it'd be like, we'd love to get back to Roe versus Wade. Not as a case, but as a standard for, we'd love to get back there, because Colorado blew past Roe versus Wade by a mile. Is this just the dog that caught the car, as Billy puts it? 303-696-1971 is our phone number. I want to tell you about Advanced Hair Restoration. That's our friend, Dr. Tanya Pauls. If you're looking to give yourself a gift this year, add to the list that youthful look and that extra confidence you get from getting your hair back. It's not your fault that the scalp is winning the war on the top of your noggin. That's just not your fault. You can do something about it. You can shave your head like my brother did, and he looks like $1 million the hard way. You could do that. Or you could say, I'm going to call Tanya Pauls. I'm going to check them out at advancedhair, HAIR.com, HAIR.com. And check out all the guaranteed results, by the way. No one else gives you guarantees like this. They do crazy things like they bring you in, they'll do 250 free hair grafts if you call them today and $250 off. And guess what happens when you do that? The next day, you start to notice that your hair is growing again the very next day. No one else offers anything like that. Give them a call, quiz them, ask them all sorts of questions. 720-459-HAIR. 720-459-HAIR. Again, check them out at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. When we come back, you, me, the text, give us a call, 303-696-1971. Your thoughts on this, the media, the misstatements, the mischaracterizations of what's going on in Texas, and the abortion issue in general. Is this just a loser for Republicans moving forward? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. We're talking about this Texas Supreme Court case, but the broader question, and it's one that I've been grappling with now for a bit, ever since the Dobbs decision led to, or at least enhanced, the bloodletting that took place in the subsequent big-time elections that we've had. I get the feeling, folks, that for the right, for conservatives, pro-life obviously remains a principle and a commitment to a certain level of morality, but is it a loser for the GOP at this point? Is this the thing that's going to, because I'm telling you right now, the Dems are going to put on the ballot in Colorado an effort to enshrine in the Constitution abortion rights that are broader than anything you can imagine other than our current existing statute. And they're going to do it by saying, well, we need to secure them in there because someday, I don't know why I'm going Mr. Burns on that, someday the Republicans may take control again. I don't know when that day is, by the way. It can't come soon enough. But nonetheless, that's what I think they're going to do. And is that a big loser for us? And I think the other question that was interesting that someone posed is, well, what do you tell Kate Cox? In this situation, what do you tell Kate Cox? There's a lot to this that's going on. Let's get to the phone lines. 303-696-1971. Jim, you're on 710. What do you think?
Hey, good morning. I think you and your damn lawyers have got us all right where you want us.
If I do, it was accidentally because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I listened to your opening. So that doctor has that doctor has no choice. They cannot go any further than the statement they made. They are guaranteed either way to be sued for a political issue. They will have to give up their practice or their shift or their house in Texas and leave Texas, because that is exactly what's going to happen if they put themselves out on a limb. They're guaranteed to get sued no matter what. So, but I do have a solution.
Well, hold on, but you're talking specifically about the Texas law that passed, and I just don't have it at my fingertips, but it seemed to suggest that anybody could sue someone for aiding and abetting in an abortion or something like that. Is that right?
Even if the law didn't give them that specific authority, it would still occur in this current climate.
Yeah, but who would have standing to sue?
It doesn't matter. They're gonna sue, and they're gonna change people's lives. That doctor would have to flee and leave Texas and go somewhere else, guaranteed.
So if it doesn't have anything to do with the Texas law, then why in the world isn't this happening here in Colorado or anywhere else that I'm hearing about?
Sooner or later, a high enough profile case will occur, and the lawyers will converge and ruin people's lives, and those lives might be a doctor. So the doctor's smart enough to know.
Sometimes lawyers do good stuff.
You're right. But sometimes they don't. And now we have to hide in the corner to make sure that we protect ourselves against liability in all industries. It's insane. We should just.
I do think the liability issue is real. What do we do?
You know what? here's what we do. We take all the lawyers, we take them over to Gaza, we put them in a tunnel, and we let the Israeli Defense Forces flood the tunnel.
It's just that whole what's a million
It's that
lawyers at the
easy.
bottom of the ocean? A good start.
Yeah, you're welcome. I came up with that. It's a solution. Now, that doesn't go for talk show hosts that are lawyers and
Well, thank
whatever.
you. Jeez, I was a little worried.
Right. And
What do you do? What do
Merry
you do in the
Christmas.
situation in Texas? This was a good question somebody posed about what does Kate Cox do here. But do you think that this now is a full-blown loser issue for Republicans, not just here in Colorado, but nationally? Like, should the pro-life thing be as quickly in the rearview mirror as possible? And by that way, I'm not saying capitulate. I'm saying we got to figure out a way to do something with this issue because we're getting beaten with it.
Yes, it's the biggest loser you could ever encounter. Texas is going to have to limit voting because we're going to find out that women in Texas have issues other than support your man, stand by your man. They're going to have to limit voting in Texas. Texas is a state that's being overrun by Californians anyway, without these issues aiding them in turning blue. They're going to have to restrict voting in Texas.
Well, so let me ask you then, and I know you're not a big card-carrying member of the old GOP, but you are libertarian/conservative, as best I can tell. What advice do you give the Republicans about a policy position to take on abortion moving forward that makes sense?
You know what? You've got to distance yourself from it. I don't believe that you just have to distance yourself from it because the more upfront abortion is, it will be used against this. Here's the problem. The party is not conservative. They've just attached themselves to the conservative party. So everybody wants that government money in one shape or form, and anything that stops the government money from getting in your pocket is evil. So, and there's no difference between a welfare mother and a welfare Halliburton, for instance. They're the same. They want the government money. That's what it's all about. And these lawyers are taking that government money and they're funneling it in the directions that politicians now want. And the politicians are going to swap and change out. They're going to lose their jobs. So the
Jim,
politicians
thanks for the
are going to have to.
You're always a ray of sunshine.
Distance themselves.
You're always a ray of sunshine.
Put them in tunnels. That's all.
Maybe that's the one thing that'll put listeners at ease there and put a smile on their faces. Jim's suggestion that we fill the Hamas tunnels in Gaza with attorneys and then have IDF flood them. I just don't know. Jim, thanks for the call. 303-696-1971. Sandy, you're on 710 KNUS. Sandy, what do you think?
I think probably we're on the same side. I think doctors will probably be concerned about saying anything about mother's health in Texas because they've been threatened with jail. They've been threatened with all kinds of things. And frankly, I am sick to death of this abortion issue. It shouldn't even be on radar. Women should be able to do what they need to do without people telling them that they're wrong. They have no idea what their situation is. It's ridiculous that every year we have this. It's just like the people who say every year, oh, you can't say Merry Christmas. That's not PC. Every year somebody says that, and nobody has ever said you can't say Merry Christmas. I just wish this abortion issue would be off the table.
Sandy, let me ask you, are you a registered Republican?
Actually, yes.
Okay, and how long as a registered Republican have you had this feeling about the abortion issue?
Listen, all my life, and I was a nurse for many, many years, and I also have known people way back when I was a kid that had to carry a baby to term when they knew the baby had died in utero, but there was no other way. So they had to do it until the uterus decided to expel it. This is wrong, George.
Sandy, do you think there ought to be any limits? And maybe instead of just do you think, are there any limits on abortion that would not be toxic to Republicans on the ballot? Is there anything? Because right now in Colorado, as you know, Sandy, we kind of have abortion at any time for any reason or no reason at all. And some would say, whoa. And we've seen this tried in other states. What about a 15-week limit? What about a 20-week limit? Are there any limitations that you can think of that wouldn't be toxic for Republicans?
Well, I think you want people to use good sense. You know, I remember when this law was first passed, I actually worked in Colorado, and I remember assisting somebody with an abortion and being appalled when I saw the little fetus. So it isn't that I have no sympathy. It's a heart-wrenching situation.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's necessary. And
Yeah.
I hear these people
who gets
talk
to
about
decide that?
the doctor and the mother,
This
not
one,
the lawyer
and I get
and the Supreme Court.
And by the way, the Supreme Court agrees with you. Texas is like, pretty please, this isn't our issue. Just either you can certify what you've told us, which is this poses a risk to her, the function of a bodily organ, or it doesn't. And the doctor won't do it. And I guess your point is maybe it exists, but the doctor's afraid to certify it because someone's going to sue them. I hadn't given that much thought, but maybe
I
that's
believe
the
it.
thing that
Honest
needs to
to
change.
God. So I just wish, what miracle is going to take this topic away?
Yeah, I don't know, but I will tell you that I think that the trend is, at least at the polls, is to enshrine in law and the Constitution more guaranteed abortion ability at a certain level. I don't know. It just seems like every time outside of Texas and some other states that there's an attempt to limit it, voters push back on it. And I just think that's why it's going to show up on the ballot here in Colorado in 2024.
Every time I hear somebody talk about, well, they want to abort right up to the 9th month, that's ludicrous.
Does it happen though, Sandy?
If you're that far in your pregnancy, what they're doing is an early delivery for some reason. They're not going in there with a curette and scooping out the brains. This is ridiculous, and I'd like to know the statistics behind some of this. Try to find them.
Sandy, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate your position and the fact that you're a Republican having it. I appreciate that. I think it helps the conversation. We got more callers on the line, Dwayne. Sandy's line is open, 303-696-1971. We're going to cut away for a break. I got to tell you, it's just coincidental. Maybe it's ironic that I'm talking to you about Dan Caplis. As you know, Dan is a devout Catholic, has been his whole life, raised in a Catholic family, and is pro-life. And I think unequivocally pro-life. And if you've ever heard Dan talk about it, he does it with such eloquence and passion. You know this is in his heart. You know this is in his soul. But what's interesting about Dan, as much as he fights for the life issue, is all of that, all of the politics that surround that issue and any others. That's the Dan Caplis you hear on the radio. The Dan Caplis that walks into the courtroom and fights for you doesn't care about any of those things. That Dan Caplis says, if you have a righteous case, if you're hurt, I don't care what your political positions are. I don't care what your positions are. I don't care what demographic you are. What I care about is, are you a victim? And if you're a victim, you get me, all the good parts, which are decades of courtroom experience and success. I listened to him the other day talk about how he got lowballed by some insurance company for like $130,000 and said, no, thank you. Went to court and rang the bell for $1.5 million. I mean, it's Rainmaker-like. Do you know what I mean? If you ever watched that movie with Matt Damon and Danny DeVito, John Voight, what a great, great movie. That's what Dan does on a daily basis. All you have to do to get the benefit of that is to call 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out at Dan Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, dancaplislaw.com. When we come back, it'll be Dwayne, the other callers, the texters, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Before we get to Dwayne and Jacqueline and others, we'll continue this conversation. It's an important one to have at any time, but certainly heading into next year's pivotal year. Right before we do that, though, I want to tell you about our friends at QC Kinetics. That's QCkinetics.com. They're the folks that use regenerative medicine. That's sticking a needle in you, putting it back in you in another place that needs. You have that chronic joint pain, hips, knee, back, any other joints. And then you walk out feeling fine. You're not in a wheelchair. You're not on crutches. You're not on one of those rolly things that you put your knee in. None of that stuff. The pain goes away. You don't have to take the pills. You don't have to risk the infection. If it sounds too good to be true, it's not. But check them out at QCkinetics.com. Test them. Call them, 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. Ask them every question you can think of and then give it a shot. And once it works, and it will work, you call us back and let us know how it goes. That's our friends at QCkinetics.com. Dwayne, you're on 710 KNUS. Dwayne, what do you think?
Oh, good morning, sir. Well, happy birthday to the Army, National
The
Guard,
National
of course.
Guard, baby. Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Well, without air support from the Air Force and National Guard, we certainly wouldn't be able to do
Well,
anything
there's
else.
that.
Especially, there is the
The Army Air
F-4E
Corps.
wild weasels that sat there and did things that no Army person would ever do, because they went in with no ammunition and no bombs and sat there and said, "Where's the nasty places? Oh, wake them up," and then sat there and did
Yeah.
things. But I digress.
I've known plenty of wild weasels in the Army, but go on.
Well, this is the Air Force wild weasel, F-4E.
Yeah.
Read up on those guys. Those are the ones that you sit there and you go, really? It takes 2 trains to bring those in? No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. As your conversation of earlier here, I mean, Colorado has the mani-pedi abortion specials going on. We're never going to get rid of it. But this thing in Texas, you know that was scripted in such a way, legalese, that it's out there, made national news. And if you think this is the only case that's going to become this way, oh, sir, please. We have blinders to remove from you. We need to take you out in the outside. We need you to see the real world. This is going to be a hammered issue.
The part, it has the markings in my mind of a case that could be. The part, though, that I have trouble with is Kate Cox. I just can't imagine finding any woman who has gone through 2 deliveries, had healthy babies, wants to have a third with her husband, and then gets this horrible news, playing into this, short of being manipulated. I just can't believe that a woman would do that.
Obviously, you really don't talk with that many Democrats, because some of the people I know, the radicals, I mean, I know people who sit there and say the Marxists really aren't Marxists enough. But we need to sit there and see somebody who would not sit there and do for the cause in this situation. I think that this case here is just one step of many going up the ladder to a furthermore destructive situation to our culture as the United States and legalese. Because right now, if it can't be done in Congress, it's going to be done in the courts. True?
Well, the courts have been the last refuge, but I think they're going to do it at the ballot box. And that gets me to my last question to you, Dwayne, is this issue a loser for Republicans in 2024?
Well, I remember one loving young lady who sits there and listens, who wouldn't vote for the senatorial candidate because he was going at 5 months on the abortion. And we got Mr. Bennett in retrospect. I won't call him senator because I don't respect him enough. And go ahead, take me to court. I don't care. I got my commission on a car sale. I got legal FAFO money right now. I think we need to sit there and say, enough. I agree with the young lady Sandy beforehand. Shut up about it. Stop. I don't like it. I don't want to have one. I don't want to see one produced. But I also sit there and say, as a medical condition, that this became a national speaking point, Republicans are getting screwed.
Dwayne, thanks for finishing off this hour on that. Dwayne's line is open at 303-696-1971. Congrats on the car sales. Jacqueline, I want to talk with you. I just don't want to do it in 30 seconds. So stick around. We'll continue this. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final hour of the Hump Day Show. Only 2 days after this, a little bit of an update. Tomorrow, I'll be with you, of course, but not from 6 to 10, 6 to 8-ish. And then Big Daddy Woo Woo's got to get on a plane, an old jet liner, and fly back to the east. I'm taking care of some training for a police department out there. And so the rest of the show tomorrow will be handled by JC. No, not the Holy One. The one that you've said holy, but it's John Caldera. And then on Friday, Big Pete Boyles will be back in a seat he knows so well. He's the one that made it a legit spot to be, and I'm just as honored as I can be to have followed in his seat steps, if there are such a thing. So that's tomorrow, and that's Friday, and then, of course, I'll be back Monday. Billy, I'm giving some heads up here, Billy. I hope you're okay with that. Billy has informed me this morning, and it's traumatic, that he is not going to be producing the show next week because, of course, Billy's entitled to days off. A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't know that either. I thought Billy had to be in the studio every single day. It turns out,
evidently, Billy thought so too, because they came to me and said, "Do you have any idea how many hours you still have to take?" And I said, "No." And they pointed out to me that I have taken almost no time off this year. So
yeah, which by the way, I love and the listeners love.
I'm not so certain about the listeners, but still, I've been here, so I got a lot of time, and some of it we're going to.
I just wish they would give you the option to pay you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll trade in my time for money because Santa might like that.
Yeah, I would do that in a second. So yeah, I'll be gone next week, 1 day during Christmas week, and then a lot during January. But it's kind of broken up a little bit, but a lot. I'm gone a lot.
Yeah,
during
that
January.
sucks.
Yeah. I know.
That just really sucks.
I got to go get the phone. Someone's going to insult me.
Because listen, and we'll get right back to the calls and Jacqueline and Nick and whoever else. I promise we're going to get to you. It sucks because, as you know, the 6 o'clock hour is, I want to say it's Billy and George, but I would be cheating Billy out of it. As you know, the Thorpe Report and You Choose the News is all the heavy lifting Billy does in that 4 o'clock a.m. hour when you guys are still sleeping. That goes away. Like, no producer, even the great Kelly Michaels, couldn't come in and reproduce that. Well, that means all of a sudden now I have to think during the 6 o'clock hour. Do you know how awful that is an entire week to realize that in the 6 o'clock hour, I can't be carried across the goal line by Billy? I actually have to perform. 6 o'clock is like a warm up. It's like the stretching for me. It helps because Billy, of course, as you know, if you listen to the 6 o'clock hour, the banter just gets the juices going. Now you should tune in Monday at 6 because my guess is it will be a dumpster fire.
I'm rather curious, and the idea is, and you're exactly right. I loved how you tagged it as the warm up. That is exactly what it is. It is us waking up with you and getting ready for the day. And we're just beginning to start our day. We're sharing with you the stuff that goes on. We talk about news. We talk about some silly stuff. Sometimes we yell at each other. Sometimes we make fun of each other and we laugh a lot. But it is literally just warming up to get everything rolling, just like you guys are as well. You're waking up. You're getting things rolling at home. We're doing it with you. That's all we're doing.
Awkwardly, it's like I roll over and start talking with you through the glass or the video. And now I instantly regret that analogy. Nonetheless, one other cool thing we're going to do before we get to Jacqueline, our friend from Nebraska, is today in the afternoon, guess who's coming over to the house? Billy, do you know who's coming over to my house?
Oh, the Shelby Shelves.
The Shelby Shelves, Brent and Joyce Tolliver, they're coming to George's Hizzy, Slosh George. And they're going to come in here and look for ways to make my kitchen and my bathroom and maybe the pantry, I don't know, the closets, whatever it is that they can do that they can add shelves to make the house even awesomer. They're going to do it. I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to it. My recommendation is you do what I did. Call 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, and ask them to come over to your house and do the same thing. It's a free estimate, for goodness sake. And they'll throw in the first 4 installations for free, which I think is like an $80 value or something. But the best part is you get to meet great people who have a great business. It's that mother-son team that create Roll 'em Out Shelves. You can find them at rollemoutshelves.com. And at the end of the day, you make your house better. What? You make your house more efficient. You love being in it more. I don't know. There just aren't a lot of businesses out there that when they leave, you feel like this is on an everyday basis, not from aesthetics, but from functionality, going to make me happier with the place that I live. Check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com. I'll tell you tomorrow morning how it went when I see them. That's rollemoutshelves.com. Let's get back to the topic at hand. We're talking about this Texas Supreme Court decision that came down that says that Kate Cox doesn't qualify for the exception under the abortion prohibition law in Texas because her doctor won't certify the things they're all saying in public about her health and the risk to her future fertility. And it really got to us a broader conversation about is this an issue that is just so toxic for Republicans? Because it's coming to the ballot. That it's so toxic for Republicans, we got to figure out a way not to give up on it, but to figure out a way to move past it. And I just don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm telling you, on the ballot in November of 2024, we are going to see here in the state of Colorado a constitutional amendment enshrining the most liberal abortion law on the planet Earth into our Constitution, and it will pass. I'm telling you, it will pass. It will also have an impact on congressional races. Definitely the 8th, probably the 3rd, and it'll have an impact on all those other legislative races, even for terrorist-loving Timmy Hamas. This plays right into his wheelhouse. 303-696-1971. Jacqueline, you're on 710 KNUS. Thank you so much for hanging on. Jacqueline, what do you think about all this?
Well, let me start by saying this. I'm a daughter, I'm a niece, I'm an aunt, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I also worked about 30 some years in the nursing field. I'm also what I would call a decent Catholic. But I am going to tell you, women have been getting abortions since the beginning of time, and they'll do it whether you like it or not. And they do it, and no one's the wiser. The Republicans need to walk away from this and say, you know what? We're not going to bother with it. It's none of our business. I'll tell you something. You can be beside a woman. You could know her for 30, 40 years, and she's probably had an abortion or two. You would never know. That's the secret that a woman takes to her grave. And young women will have their backs up against the wall because they think someone's taken their personal rights away. They need to walk away from it and say, you ask me, have you had an abortion? I'm going to tell you, it's none of your business. That's between me and God.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that straight up. And you don't even need a doctor to do it. Women have been doing home abortions, George, for thousands of years. There's a woman somewhere that knows how to do it. There's someone somewhere. That's something that's a secret women keep. And for it to be a political thing, you're losing every time. Colorado will not do it. Now, these radical abortion issues are absolutely monstrous. Women don't need that. But the Democrats are offering that because they want their vote. Women aren't going to go for that, but they'll vote for those damn lunatic Democrats because they're allowing them to say so. They need to walk away and say, you know what? I don't care anymore. It's none of our business. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. And I until they do that, they're not going to get anywhere.
Well, some states it must still play because you have Texas, but states like Kansas and I don't know about Nebraska. Jacqueline, have you guys had this issue on the ballot in Nebraska?
No.
How do you think it turns out if they go the way of Kansas and they put something on here, whether it's to try to eliminate it, limit it, or to expand it? How do you think this thing turns out in Nebraska? Very conservative Nebraska.
Well, I think they would want a limitation on it. I don't think that they are even going to waste their time with it because women will do it whether you like it or not. Colorado's going to look what they're doing with it in Colorado. You don't need that. Women don't need that is what I'm saying. The Democrats need it. Now, the Republicans should walk away and say, you know what? If a woman's going to do this, and they'll take it to their graves, women will. You'll never
Jacqueline,
know.
Is that the answer? Is it because even if we think it's wrong, and I should have asked you, Jacqueline, are you a registered Republican?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so if you're a Republican and you think it's wrong, whether they're doing it or not, does that drive whether or not you should make efforts to eliminate it through passing laws or other limitations? And if the answer is, and I appreciate what you're saying, walk away from it, what does that mean? Does that mean that if the Dems wanted to offer abortion on demand up and through, an hour after birth, that Republicans should just be like, whatever, let's just hurry up and get this done. I mean, my worry is I don't want to encourage people to give up on the issue, but dang, folks, I mean, where are we winning on this?
Well, you won't win. And, sometimes you have to sit back and say, okay, put your money where your mouth is. Let these Democrats get all radical and crazy and see how many women will really take them up on it. There won't be that many women. There won't be, because most women will not go they're not going to go and commit murder of a viable child. They're just not going to do that, because you can do that way before that happens. But if you're offering it out on the ballot and you're making an issue out of it, well, these young women are going to say, well, I wouldn't do it and I'm not going to do that. But you know what? They're not going to take that right away from me. So back away from it.
That's so interesting. They're not going to take a right away from me that I would never exercise and I would find appalling if it was exercised. That's just interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting, but that's the mind. That's the privacy of this whole thing. That's the privacy of this issue. Women go to their graves, George, and you'll never know who they are. Yeah. I'm telling you, I worked in clinics. I know. And there's situations where I have to tell you, a 13-year-old girl, I remember when I was first in nursing, was raped by her stepfather.
Oh,
well, her mother, yes, it ended up being an abortion. I have to tell you, it was done early, but I did not have, and I'm going to be honest with you, I did not have a big problem with that, because the situation was something that was appalling to me. It absolutely was a rape of a 12-year-old girl. Now, little girls, children like that, they're victims. So I'm just telling you, it shouldn't be on the ballot, because women have common sense when it comes to stuff, and they're pretty smart. But you get these liberal women that think, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and they're not going to take it from me. Well, they get their backs up against the wall, and they'll vote for the Democrat just simply because, they're protecting my right to do what I want.
We may very well be seeing that. Jacqueline, thank you for the sincere comments, and I appreciate the insight and the background. I think it helps advance the conversation. 303-696-1971. Yes, sir.
I want to throw something in there, and I appreciate Jacqueline's comment.
Is it a grenade?
No, but it's a different layer. She's talking about the idea of that, and you're talking about the issue that the individual woman is, even though they wouldn't exercise that right or don't see exercising that right, why would they then defend that right? And the reason that I believe is because they do not want to deprive their sister, their daughter, their granddaughter of making that choice. They don't know what circumstances or situations are going to happen in the future. And even if they don't make that choice, from the individuals I've talked to, they are very afraid that someone in their family will need to avail themselves of this, and they can't. So that I think is an extra layer, rather than just focusing on the individual person. In the conversations I've had, it spills over into sisters and aunts and cousins, and especially daughters and granddaughters.
I can see that. I can also see, though, on a very individual basis, someone saying the fact that I wouldn't do it doesn't mean that I'm okay with you telling me, what to do, or starting down the road of limiting my ability to make these decisions. I could also see that too, like even independent of, and those parts are totally legit to me. Like, well, I may not need to make this decision, but someone else will. I can just also see them saying, whoa, I don't want you telling me what to do. I could also see people saying, I have no interest in guns at all. And I'm not saying it's a direct, it's a great analogy, but I have no interest in guns. But dang it, I don't want the government telling me I couldn't own one, or my neighbors couldn't own one, because I believe in the Second Amendment. I know these aren't constitutional things. I'm just saying I can see how an individual can swallow this as it's a principled no. Even if I would never do it, it's a principled no. That's so. Let's get back to the phone lines here. Nick, you're on 710 KNUS. Nick, what do you think?
Thanks for taking my call. And the
Sure.
the previous caller was very, very interesting. However, why isn't this a possibility? The rest of the so-called developed world, like especially Europe, they allow for an abortion during the first trimester. After that, it has to be a decision made by a doctor. Why can't we just adopt that? In other words, a woman has 3 months, roughly, time to make that decision. All over Europe, that is basically the standard. Why can't we just go that way and basically diffuse the toxicity surrounding this whole issue?
how do you see doing that? Like, do you see this as the loser for Republicans that I'm starting to think that this is? Not within the party. I mean, the party's still a pro-life party, but something's happening here, folks, with unaffiliateds and obviously Dems in the general election.
Yes, it is a loser. It is a loser. It's not a winning issue. It is not a winning issue. It's a losing issue because it spills over, the abortion issue spills over into your other freedoms. And women have had to work long and hard to get the freedoms to vote and all the other freedoms that they finally have gotten in the last 50 to 80 years. And somehow when you tell them you're restricting abortion, it spills over into these other issues, and they figure, well, if they could do this to us, then they're going to start taking our rights away from us again, that we worked and fought so hard to get.
Yeah,
it is a losing issue for the Republicans. It just is. Now, for
maybe
the diehard,
there's a state out there in the South or something that I'm missing, where this is still a strong winning issue. But Colorado has gone so liberal on the issue of abortion. I don't even know how we carve back something reasonable like first trimester or hell second. I mean, there's no trimester at which the Dems would tolerate a limitation on abortion, and I think that's incredibly extreme. Go ahead.
Yes, it is, and a candidate can point to the fact that every major developed, civilized, and I put that in quotation, civilized country in the world will allow for an abortion for the first trimester, period. So if we did that, if we supported that, the issue in that way, we could say we're just in alignment with the rest of the so-called developed world.
You know what? You're so right. And we have gone way past what Europe tolerates. And on almost every other issue, we're like, look at Europe. Here, we've blown way past them, and we won't entertain any argument or discussion about a limitation.
Well, maybe in Colorado, but I just think if you approach the issue that we are just going to get in alignment with the rest of the world, then you've diffused it to a large extent. You can't say you're abolishing abortion. No, I'm not. No, you're not.
I'm not excited about ever doing Europe does it. I mean, I've pushed back against that from the beginning. Like, is it an interesting thing to know and to look at to see if it's effective? Perhaps, but in no way do I ever want to see us go, oh, Europe does it. Well, let's do Europe.
I think Asian countries allow for that too, for the first trimester.
That's amazing.
But you're
Nick,
right.
Thank you for the phone call, man.
It is a losing issue, and the Democrats are going to really emphasize this issue because they have no other issue to run on.
Nick, thanks, man. I appreciate this. 303-696-1971. I happen to agree with him on that issue. The Dems are going to push this issue because they know it's a wedge and it's a winner. It's a winning wedge for them. Listen, I want to get to Bob and the other callers. Nick's line open again. But I only have a couple minutes here, and I want to take Bob longer than that. This is just an important issue about who we are and where we're going and what impact it's going to have on who represents us in the 2024 election. So I want to have time to do that. Bob, you hang on. Of course, I'll take you, and we'll have the conversation. Before I do that, though, I need to tell you about the fantastic people that are out there doing something like saving lives. That's right. Step Denver. Step Denver has said to men who are struggling with addiction and all the things that flow from it, including homelessness, you come and join this program. We will provide you a safe, structured, and sober living environment where you can work on you. We'll help you do it. It's hard work. We'll help you get there. And they do it for absolutely no taxpayer money. Now, you heard when we went out there and visited them, they charge these men some nominal rate for their rent and other things because they want them to understand this is about buy-in. This isn't about a handout. This is about a hand up. This is about putting them in a position to be responsible for themselves and their illness. And that's what it is, this disease. It's not anybody else's obligation. It's their own. And that's why the program works. But you know what? Not taking tax money means they got to get funded some other way. Now, Billy told us yesterday, we crushed it in terms of the fundraising goal that they set. 41 men over the next year are now going to have an opportunity to join that program. You can help out as an individual. You don't even have to write a big check. You could, but why not donate that car or that truck that you're thinking, maybe I'll hang on to it till I trade it in. Maybe I'll sell it on it. Don't. Call up Vincent at 303-296-9020 and tell him you want to donate your car, your truck. I did it. This isn't me saying to do it just to encourage. I did it. I had a car, a 2012 Chevy Traverse. I could have sold it. I could have traded it in when I bought my I Love Trees hybrid RAV4. I didn't do those things because I wanted to give it to Step Denver to help save a life, and every vehicle does. Check out stepdenver.org, stepdenver.org, and call Vincent for the hassle-free, absolutely free tow at 303-296-9020, 303-296-9020. When we come back, Bob, the other callers and texts, it's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you, 710 KNUS. We're on that last half of the last hour of the Hump Day show. Let's get right to it. Bob, you're on 710 KNUS. Bob, what do you think?
Good morning, George. I'd like to go down a little MAGA memory lane here.
Yeah,
You
please.
remember the battle cry? Don't
The
let
battle of
the
who?
politician. Pardon?
You said I missed it. You said the battle of something.
The MAGA memory lane?
Yep.
Yeah, can you remember the battle cry? Don't let the politicians get between you and your doctor.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
About 2009, Obamacare.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, but what happens when what goes around comes around?
And
I'll
tell
tell
me
you
about
what,
that.
this thing in Texas, if you wanted to stir up some folks, wow, man, this is awesome. You've got their attention now, folks. That small government can't wait to crawl up your leg.
Well, that's an interesting way to put that, Bob. First off, tell me if you don't mind, are you a registered Republican?
No,
What are you registered as?
I'm unaffiliated.
Do you vote Republican? Do you tend to vote Dem? And I just want to give listeners a perspective before I ask you some of the other questions, like what happens now. But do you tend to vote Republican, Democrat? How do you come out?
Well, my main gripe is about bribery.
Okay.
As in the 2010 Citizens United decision.
Okay.
And the people
what
that
way?
promoted that. Well, I believe that we've got I've been saying for over a couple of decades now that we've got the best Congress that money can buy, but I'm refining that a bit. We have the best Republican Party that money can buy.
You don't think the Dems in the same boat?
Well, some of them are, like Joe Manchin, and who was the Cinnamon in Arizona. Yeah,
Kristen Sinema.
Of course.
Yeah, it sounds
that
like
green money, that works for all of them.
Yeah, not just those two, but I get your point. Well, so let me ask you, is this an issue that you think is just so toxic that Republicans ought to move on from it? And what does that look like?
Well, I'm not qualified to give the Republicans advice on any.
Well, you're a
not.
voter and you're a witness to it. Is this the kind of issue that would motivate you one way or the other to vote for or against a candidate?
No, this issue has never changed my vote.
Okay,
Never.
that's important. That's interesting. So if this ended up on the ballot here in Colorado, my guess is every congressional candidate at a minimum, but probably every legislative candidate at every level, it's going to be asked, do you support this constitutional amendment? And that will be used to bludgeon them with, you're trying to impact a woman's right to choose. And that would have no impact on you.
Well, of course it would have an impact. Everything has an impact on it. It's just a matter of
You know what I
figuring
mean.
out
This wouldn't cause
what
you to
that
vote one way or
impact
the
is
other.
and what to do about it. But I had a lady friend for decades that I asked her, she's gushing about Mr. Trump, and I asked her, so what do you think about the money he wrote to that woman about his affair? She had no idea, never heard of it. Good. So whether or not these things are important, if Mr. Trump had written a check out of his own personal account, there would be no crime, because you can put your own money in your own campaign. But that's not how he rolls, and that's not how we roll. So this, whatever the issue is, people latch onto this stuff. There's some very smart people out there that figure out what sells and what doesn't sell. And I believe that I get played. I listen to radio, which means that I probably at the end know less than nothing, because I only know what I hear on the radio. I don't get out and do stuff.
Bob, do you have any
I'm a
sense
sick old
of?
cripple.
Do you ever have any sense of? It sounds like you're a pro-choice guy, and that's fine. But are there any limitations that you can think of that a Republican could
Viability
push for on the ballot that would not impact them negatively?
Every issue that the conservatives promote has a flip side.
Well, that's true of the libs too, though, man. Right?
Oh yeah. Well, this insanity here about sentencing and so forth. And the governor get on, that truck that rolled down to get all those
Yes.
$1 million settlements or whatever. Was that one of those trucks from Mexico by chance, or was it just the driver?
I'd heard that. I heard at least it was from a Texas company that had really a very lax approach to the safety piece of that thing too. But well, Bob, let me do
when those
this.
trucks come rolling up Interstate 35 from Mexico, that's about saving money. Hitting the labor right in the pocketbook. Well, the guy from Mexico will drive for half the money that you're making as a truck driver. I didn't hear Wayne Allard he was silent, like AWOL, gone when that was happening.
Wayne Allard.
All that NAFTA thing is all that does is open the doors for cheap this and cheap that. And then we got guys that are making millions of dollars off of these guys that don't have to observe any rules or laws in Colorado. That guy come down off the hill. That was criminally stupid what he did. He should have been in that damn truck anywhere near Colorado.
He was convicted of killing those people, and the governor said, well, why don't we treat you like a low-level drug dealer? Bob, thank you for the phone call, man, at 303-696-1971. Bob's line is open. Just a couple texts before we get to Jack and other callers. Here's one. Why are men the loudest against abortion? Sometimes it feels like it's a control issue. I was a registered Republican until Trump went crazy. I won't say I'm pro-choice, but I definitely won't tell a woman what to do. Here's another. Win at church, sir, but aim for bodily autonomy politically. What does that mean? Win at church, but aim for... I'm missing it, and I'm not that bright. Eric Manning, preach, my lady, you go, girl. I presume that was for Sandy. Here's one. Wow, Mark Levin on with Glenn Beck for 3 segments backing President Trump. Don't care. Hell yeah, George. Bring the badass Blake Gallagher for Billy case close. Ha, Bigley. Again, I can't understand the words.
No, what he wants is what Eric is doing is he's throwing rocks at me. He's upset with me for whatever reason. And again, don't care. He can always step up and call. He knows the phone number. He demonstrates it on a regular basis. And I like Eric. If he called me in the middle of the night and said, hey, I'm stuck here, I need bail money, etc., I got you. But this thing is he's just saying that he wants Blake to fill in for me because he likes Blake a lot more. And again, I like Blake. Blake's a good dude, but with respect, once Blake has my resume, once Blake shows that he can get the ratings that I can, once he's got 3 decades in this, then we'll talk about who can replace whom. Blake is at the beginning of his but Eric, Blake is at the beginning of his career. He still has a heck of a lot to learn. He's very green. And take a listen and a notice for when I'm gone, how many of those opportunities he gets. Just put that in your back pocket, Eric, and look, because I'm not making that choice at who's going to sit in this chair when I'm gone.
This is the one, by the way, where he's actually hitting on our topic of the day. None of your business, George and Billy. I told you that early. Wow, you put your nose in someone's business, it gets broke.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I think it's about the abortion thing. Here's one that just came in. What's that, sir?
No, I doubt it. And here's the thing is, he comes in and early on, he says, if it's not your baby, it's none of your business. And so I got a question for Eric. So you're pro-choice? I'm surprised, given everything else we know about your politics. He's pro-choice. That's what his message was earlier today. He's pro-choice. So, okay, Eric,
much more libertarian.
That's very surprising. But yeah, go ahead. You got a new message.
Yeah, number 303-696-1971. Let's get to Jack. Jack, you're on 710. What do you think?
George, the point you're making is extremely important, and it's been obvious to me for at least 20 years. This is an issue that's been a human behavior for 3,000 to 4,000 years. It's been illegal many, many, many times, and then it just goes in the back alley. There is no remedy for it. There's never going to be a remedy for it. For the Republicans to dig in on it and let the Democrats take votes away from them, where this election is so terribly important, it's just foolhardy. It's just foolishness. I mean, if you want to look at it historically, if you even look at all of these situations, like evolution against creation in the Scopes trial 80 years ago, these things are never resolved. So let's not lose any votes over it, because it's not going to be resolved. You got to be a pragmatist. You got to understand that there is no answer to this one. Let's not lose the election over it. And you're on that point. Stay on the point. Thank you.
Well, Jack, what about the idea though that hey, let's stay out of it, or it's an unresolved issue? It is going to be resolved, and it looks like the way that happens is more and more states through the Dems and stuff are putting onto the ballot and constitutional amendments that answer this thing one way or the other. Should Republicans not resist that? Should we embrace? What do Republicans do now since that's happening?
Paul, it's always been a states issue. There's never been a time where it hasn't been a states issue.
No, I get it. But what do
nothing new about
Republicans
that.
in a state that seeks to amend the Constitution to make the most permissive abortion law on the planet do? What do? Because you and I both see this as this is pretty toxic for Republicans at the general election. So what should they do?
Don't let it blind you to what's so important in the election. This is not the issue on point right now. We're trying to save this country right now. The abortion issue is not going to be resolved no matter what you do. There's no resolution to this one. They still haven't agreed on evolution over creation. They had that before the courts. It's never been resolved.
Let me play the role of interviewer for you as you're running for office, right? And I'm doing this by way of advice to some other candidates. Jack, you've said you're running for blank on the ballot in Colorado is a measure to amend the Constitution to enshrine in the Constitution the statutory permissiveness that we have for our abortion laws. Do you support that? And then are you going to say, well, this isn't our biggest issue? You say that, and I go, but what's your answer to that? Do you support it or not support it? You're going to have the opportunity to vote for it.
Okay,
what are you going to vote for?
You want my answer? My answer is I don't support it because I don't believe it's politicians' job to interfere with the sovereignty of a female. Okay? That's the answer.
So just so that I'm clear, in Colorado, the constitutional amendment would preserve exactly what you said. It would enshrine in the Constitution a pregnant person's ability to have an abortion at any moment in time. Now, they're going to ask you, do you support that?
I'm not supporting regulating anything that tells a woman what she does or does not have to do. Okay?
So you'd support a constitutional amendment that would
be my position.
But you would support a constitutional amendment then that would protect that ability.
Yeah, and I would not, as a politician, go for a legislation that says she has to have an abortion or one that says she can't have one. I would not go for one that says she has to have a gun or she can't have a gun. It's the same thing, George. It's the same argument. But don't let it bugger up. Don't chase away voters from this most important election.
No, I get it, but I'm just telling you, it's going to be tough because this is an issue that will play differently in the primary than it will in the general election in some parts of the state. And so that question that I asked you, that's kind of a big deal. How you answer that matters.
In this particular election, it's a red herring. Okay, man, you're on to it. You already understand it. I can tell. That's why I called.
Jack, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for advancing the conversation. Jack's line is open at 303-696-1971. Before we cut away for a break, and we'll get back to the other calls and the texts that are here, there's a bunch. Got to tell you about our friends at Ultra Botanica. If you don't know that name, what you probably know is their super awesome product called Ultra Cur. It's a curcumin-based, all-natural, patented supplement that you could get for free, 3 days of it for free out of your natural grocers. And you just go to the vitamin manager and you say, hey, I'd love to have my 3-day supply of this. And the reason you do that is, one, there's no downside to it. You get a chance to see how this thing works as an antioxidant, an anti-inflammatory. It advances the cause of your overall general health, and it costs you nothing to try it out. I mean, it's almost like that Amazon try before you buy thing. Try it out. If you're like 50% of the people that do, you're going to experience relief within 48 hours, and 50% of that group within 2. Why not be part of this growing movement? They've been doing it border to border, coast to coast now for a long time. They're the best at what they do. Find out why. Go to your natural grocers. You can, by the way, ask all the questions you want when you get there of the vitamin manager. But maybe the way you find out the most about this product is go to getultranow.com. Getultranow.com. Hey, when we come back, your texts, your calls will wrap up the show for this hump day. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
They have no shame. These same committee chairmen have engaged in unprecedented political interference in what would have already been a 5-year investigation of me. Yet, here I am, Mr. Chairman, taking up your offer when you said we can bring these people in for depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose. Well, I've chosen. I am here to testify at a public hearing today to answer any of the committee's legitimate questions. Republicans do not want an open process where Americans can see their tactics, expose their baseless inquiry, or hear what I have to say.
Can you hear me? Jesus.
Yeah, there we go. I got you right now. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, and Mary and Joseph. Are you there, George?
Am I on?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are. Yes, right now. You and I live. I'm just hoping you're not cursing. I'm literally holding my hand right near the giant red button that says press.
It's
just in case you say, well,
it was
this is
bizarre, man.
Yes,
it was the most bizarre thing because I could hear you clearly. I touched nothing. I did nothing. I don't know if it was on your end or mine, but all of a sudden Billy's like, "Are you there? Are you there?" I'm like, "Yes, yeah." I mean, there was like screaming.
And I'm talking to him. I'm like, I'm going to run this Hunter Biden stuff. If you don't talk to me, I'm just going to run the Hunter Biden stuff because it'll buy us a little bit of time, and it's cool because of what he said. We at least get to hear it from his mouth as far as why he stepped away and didn't want to do the behind the doors stuff. So yeah, I think also by my list, don't we still have one more live to do? Maybe.
Yeah, we do. And I was hoping
turn.
to get into some more of these texts because they're great. They're great texts. This topic is evergreen. It's not going away. Hey, listen, a big thing this weekend we tell you about from time to time, and I'm very proud to do it. It's the Tanner Gun Show. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I am a gun owner myself, concealed carry holder. So listen, as a veteran and former top prosecutor in the largest jurisdiction in the state by population, that's the 18th JD, I just know how important home protection and security are. That's why I do what I do. At the Tanner Gun Show this weekend at the Arapahoe Fairgrounds in Aurora, they're going to have all type of new and hard to find used guns, knives, ammo, AR accessories, hunting, everything you can think of. Even if you're just going there to look around and see what exists in the industry today, take time out to do it. You buy a ticket for one day, you get them for all. You get prices 30% less than big box stores. It's Friday 3 to 7, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 4. Ticket good for all 3 days. Parking always free out there at the Arapahoe County Fairgrounds. Very easy to get there. Check them out at tannergunshow.com. That's tannergunshow.com. Billy, I had intended to read some more of these texts here because they're good. One is policy is downstream of culture. You just have to read me out. Tell me when we get close. Our culture is more materialistic in nature and views children as an infringement on their freedom to consume and travel. That's so interesting. I'm not anti-abortion, especially in threat of life to mother, rape, and incest. But until our culture values life instead of materialism, this is where we'll be. That's very, very interesting. Abortion is sad. Just don't make the public pay. I'd rather pay through my taxes for birth control for every woman from 11 to 55. She's probably right about putting it on the ballot. I know a woman who wouldn't vote for Trump because she had an abortion for a spina bifida pregnancy. Save your money, ladies, and don't make the public pay. Here's another. Jacqueline is right. The left-wingers will continue to paint the narrative for Republicans unless we get out in front of the messaging. Here's another one, Billy. This is for you and I. If you F with the 6, we riot. I think that's about the 6 o'clock section right there. Some people asking about time off for Billy. How much time we got, B? Well, listen, my thanks to Lang Sias from Common Sense Institute. Check out that report at commonsenseinstituteco.org. Thanks to all of you for participating. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to take up the Hunter thing. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.